Live.
Yay! Hello, YouTube. APN Geekly Dose crew here, doing a little bonus for you. So if you just happen to be lucky enough to be watching us live right now, streaming, or you'll be able to see this after the fact as well, we're going to do a little bonus trailer overdose here. One thing we haven't mentioned, we didn't mention in the last episodes since we've been back, or I don't. Even before our big hiatus, I don't even think this movie was out. I mean, there was nothing about it. So we haven't talked about Transformers. Live. Yay! Hello, YouTube.
Uh-oh, there's a problem.
APN Geekly Dose crew here. Doing a little bonus. That was unexpected for you.
That's
so
because I'm
just
on
happen
the
to
thing.
be lucky enough to be.
That's how long the delay is.
Now that we know.
Now that we know.
Did they hear that?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that was another little unexpected bonus for you.
Yeah.
But yeah,
because I had the page open, so now I know when we went live, which was just then.
Yeah.
It's like an episode of Spaceballs all of a sudden. Because now, Ben. Now is now.
Then when was then? Just now. Oh, that movie's great. But yeah, we haven't talked about anything Transformers related in a really long time. So we're going to do a bonus trailer overdose here for anyone who's watching this video. This will not be included in the regular podcast. This is only for YouTube and anyone who's watching and etc. So we're going to do a trailer overdose for the new Transformers film, Age of Extinction, which is pretty much a teaser because it's only like a minute. And we're going to watch the Japanese version with an intro by the man himself, Mr. Mark Wahlberg. Y'all ready?
Let's do it.
All right.
Hello Japan, Mark Wahlberg here. Go check out my latest film, Transformers Lost Age. It has tons of action, some new characters, and it's full of effects that you've never seen before. It opens in Japan in August. Don't miss it.
Okay, you can pause it there.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we were just talking a minute ago about how in Japan it's called Transformers Lost Age. Any theories on why that is?
Translation barrier.
Extinction is scary to the Japanese.
But see,
Especially with Godzilla coming out.
Honestly, the funny thing is that it's usually something like that. When they change, they change the titles and subtitles for these movies. It's because of something could be sensitive to them that's not sensitive to us. You know.
And there may not be a direct like a literal translation. You know, there's that breakdown. I studied French in school, and there's exact.
Oh yeah, so I know what you mean.
Yeah, you know, there's exact translation, you know, which is usually fuddled somehow. I don't know what other word to use, but yeah, could be that too.
Interesting. Okay, let's get on with it. Okay.
Bring it up.
Once again, if you're not familiar with how trailer overdose works, we break down the trailer. We go through kind of seconds at a time, and we stop frequently to just kind of, you know, break it on down. break it on down. What was that? Never mind. I just had the dance song that you wrote. We shot the video for.
Oh, Cracker Jack?
Cracker Jack. Yeah, there was a part that was like break it on down,
That's
break it on. Okay, that's another bonus. Maybe we'll even post a link to that or something. But yeah, I just wanted to point out something that I knew about this trailer is that very first shot where you see that billboard that says Chicago or whatever on it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a number on that board, and that number is actually active. Remember Chicago. So if you call the number on that billboard, that you'll get like some kind of viral marketing kind of thing about the Transformers. And I think like I never did it, but I heard about it by like maybe like not trusting the Autobots or something. So that's a nice little tidbit for everyone, just in case you missed that. So obviously we've got.
Ready to resume?
Yeah, let's do it.
Bring it up. All the way.
Dad, you can't
Okay, so we noticed something right away about that, right?
There's a truck. It looks vaguely familiar.
But what's special about it is that that's Optimus Prime, but that's like the cartoon version of the truck, right? Because he was like a flat-nosed 18-wheeler or whatever. Right. So, you know, right away you see that like they're starting to listen to the fans and just kind of try to slide some stuff in there. And apparently this film is supposed to be more of a reboot.
He wasn't like that before.
No, he looked a lot he didn't look a lot like that truck, but you know, he looked like a regular 18-wheeler. He didn't have that flat nose that he had in the cartoon.
Right.
But they've added that for this film because apparently he's been like in hiding or something. Which I don't know if I really like that whole thing, but I feel like I'm over talking. What's anything you want to say?
No, I mean, I think that's good that they're just trying to throw it back a little bit. I'm not sure how I feel about the hiding as either, but considering the state of the world in the last movie and whatnot, we'll have to see how they play with it in the script and the plot and stuff, because it may actually make more sense, you know. And it's definitely one of those things that, you know, I know we're going to talk about Amazing Spider-Man later, and I really wanted to go back and watch the first one just to kind of bring myself up to snuff, and I didn't. And I think with sequels like this, even Days of Future Past, I'm going to probably have a weekend binge where I just watch all of them and kind of re-wrap my brain around it all before going to see
that might
it.
just confuse you all over again watching those, because they don't
Quite possibly,
they don't fit together.
especially with Days of Future Past. You know, with that coming into it, I'm gonna be like, oh my god, I'm so confused.
Okay, but yeah, that was a nice little. You know, we noticed right away that.
Nice little wink, wink.
Yeah, that's definitely a wink, wink to the cartoon Optimus Prime.
I never saw the third Transformers. I don't think I was missing much, but.
It was the best one, in
Yeah.
my opinion. Yeah, I mean the second one was easily the worst one.
Yeah.
Just terrible.
Yeah.
But the third one is definitely my favorite.
Yeah.
You know, now okay, it still has Michael Bay humor in it and stuff like that. You know, so
Humor.
yeah, right.
This is a YouTube special, so humor.
Right. Let's put it in quotes.
Very large air quotes.
So yeah, I expect a lot of that you know, that childish kind of misplaced comedy in there, but other than that, it's my favorite. You know, I have it on Blu-ray. You ever want to borrow it? You know, I got it.
I think Netflix still has it, huh?
Oh, maybe.
They had it for a long time. I still never clicked on it. So.
Oh man, you gotta watch it. I mean, at least for the robots. I mean, they look better than ever in that film, and all the fighting sequences and stuff.
Yeah.
Shit, it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, let's keep going.
All right.
Money on junk.
Look, it's not normal steel.
I think we just found the transformer.
Where is Optimus Prime? The age of the Transformers is over.
We don't need you anymore.
Okay, let's stop here. So what do we think they mean by that, right? What do you think has happened between the last film and now to where all of a sudden they're like, you know, Optimus Prime is in hiding? And I mean, you've seen Transformers 3.
Yes.
I know it's been a while, but without spoiling it.
Well, I mean, but
care
if you go through the first three, I mean, they had figured out they did have weaponry to take care of and destroy Autobots, to destroy Transformers. So maybe they've developed more technology. You know, we have, just by that one line, we don't need you anymore. We don't have a use for you. We can defend ourselves. We have the technology. We have built it, made it stronger.
Pacific Rim, basically.
You know, right.
They have their own.
You know, so maybe it's that kind of a situation.
I think that's a if they are going that way, I think that would be very interesting. Like, you know, and these films aren't known for having the most intricate or well thought out complex storylines or anything, but that will be a cool approach if the government's like, you know, you guys have been here long enough to where we've been able to study you, and we can somehow replicate you and make our own defense and all that, and then they're just like, you know, you keep bringing aliens here and we have to keep battle. So I mean, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I think that would be cool if they went in that direction with it.
Right, and figured out enough about them, because technically, I mean, if you think back to the first Transformers, where they had the piece of the shard and the box or the cube, whatever, and shit was turning into Transformers all over the place. Technically, they had the technology, at least, to make more Transformers the whole time. They just didn't know how to utilize it.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's true. Because I mean, they had freaking Megatron, or didn't they had a Decepticon in their control or whatever the whole time, right? Wasn't that?
Yeah,
something
they had oh crap! Now I can't say his name either. The leader of the Decepticons. Megatron. Yeah, they had him the whole time.
Right, they did.
And then they had the cube the whole time.
Because he was on Earth like the whole time. I forgot.
Right.
It's been a long time. And then there was the whole thing in the last movie about them, like, there being a transformer on the dark side of the moon that they knew about. So theoretically, they could have been working on something for decades And now all of a sudden it's like, let's reveal whatever it is.
Yeah, and they had been, I mean, with having an underground bunker and having Megatron and having the cube, technically they were working on it for decades because with, I can't think of the actor's name's character, you know, this was developed 1960, blah, 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 with President so-and-so, and they developed this. But without having an active transformer that could explain all this stuff, how could you figure it out? But now they've had another, 5-10 years maybe, between the first movie and this one, now to really understand and comprehend enough to where they can do their own thing.
And there's obviously going to be, you know, a several year time jump in this thing because, you know, they're not going to want to feel like trying to explain where Sam Witwicky is and all that. Like,
I don't know if anybody cares.
You know, I think general audiences will be like, well, where's Shia LaBeouf and Megan Fox? Well, Megan Fox wasn't in the last one anyway. But, you know, I mean, that's something we haven't talked about is, you know, that whole cast is just gone now.
Right.
I mean, I don't know about, maybe Josh Duhamel will still be in there or something. I don't think so, though.
Tyrese, yeah.
But this is like, from what we understand, it's just a whole new group of characters. But, I mean, it does take place in the same timeline and everything. It's just later on.
Shia's off growing beards and doing strange movies naked. Nobody cares.
Putting bags on his head.
And saying weird, he's not popular anymore. He refuses
these
to be a
performance
celebrity.
art pieces and stuff.
Yeah, no, I'll pass.
All right, yeah, let's get back to it here. All right, that's pause it. Oh, that's a great point to pause it there.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get Dinobots.
Dinobots.
In this film. I mean, people have been asking for the Dinobots since the first film. You know?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's easy to be very skeptical of this film based on the past three, based on the fact that Michael Bay's still directing it. But look at all this positive stuff about it, right? Like, clearly they're listening to the fans to some extent. I mean, like, we've got a flat-nosed Optimus Prime. We've got Dinobots showing up. I forget this guy's name.
I don't know, but he looks
idea. If you were watching right now, messages or something, let me know. I forget the T-Rex's name. It starts with a G, I think.
You can tweet us at AwesomePods, or you can go into the Q&A section of the Google Hangout.
They're probably like, you guys are not geeks. You don't know shit. This was unplanned. Okay, this is bonus YouTube thing. So you know,
we didn't get to do our geekly research.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I forget. Grimlock.
There we go.
Uh-oh.
That's right. Did we get a message?
No.
Oh. I thought that's what you were saying. Uh-oh.
I'm saying uh-oh because you got it.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how they play into the storyline because honestly, when I watched Transformers the cartoon, there were no Dinobots. Like I stopped watching before all of that stuff got introduced. So I don't know their origin story. I don't know if they come from oh God, what's the name of the planet that the Transformers?
Crap! I just had it for a second. Now it's gone.
Cybertron.
Cybertron. There we go.
Oh, okay,
there we go.
It's coming to me. It's coming back.
Slowly but surely.
Follow Cybertron.
I don't know if they come from Cybertron or what, but it's going to be interesting. I think in the beginning they're going to be like fighting the Autobots or something. But at some point in this trailer, I think Optimus Prime is like riding Grimlock's back with a sword in his hand, which has just got to be the most amazing thing you could ever imagine to grace a screen.
Shut up and take my money.
Thank you.
Exactly.
But yeah, let's get to it and see what the rest here we've got left. Only 10 seconds.
Oh shit.
Okay, well that proves so they're obviously going to fight in the beginning.
Right.
Which is just going to be an amazing thing to watch.
Oh yeah.
Come on, like say what you want about the Transformers films, but the robots always looked fantastic.
Especially from the last one. They really upped it real well. The fight scenes between the Transformers were amazing in the last movie.
Mm-hmm.
They were much, much better.
Did you see it in 3D?
Not that I remember.
I'm pretty sure I saw it in like IMAX 3D, and it was just
this one's definitely
amazing.
I'm usually, just a regular 3D movie is $10. So IMAX 3D, you're looking at least 12.
Mm-hmm.
So usually I'm like, something's got to be really, really look like it's going to pop out and engage you for me to really want to do 3D, much less IMAX 3D. But I think this one's definitely going to be one of those.
Yeah, I think so. Like I've always said, I've said on previous episodes that for me to pay to watch something in 3D, it's got to be something that I feel like is going to really use it well. Right. And I feel like this would be right, in that alley. We'll talk about Amazing Spider-Man 2 later, but I also watched Amazing Spider-Man 2 in IMAX 3D because I knew it would be worth the money, and it was, in terms of the 3D.
I saw the first one in 3D, and wasn't much to it, really.
You didn't like it in 3D?
I mean, I enjoyed it, but I think I would enjoy it just as much.
Really?
Not.
Yeah, I think it was worth it.
I think sometimes
you have to be doing some fancy stuff.
Yeah, I think a lot of times cinematographers and everybody that's involved, they're not taking advantage of that as much as they could to really make it worth $15 a ticket,
right.
Or even $10 a ticket.
Yeah, I'm very much against 3D for the most part, but there are those few franchises where, because I had a good experience with the previous film, I'll see the sequel in 3D again. And with this, I think I'm going to do that.
Right.
Okay, cool. Well, that one didn't have the shot of Optimus Prime with the sword and everything, but it exists.
Yes.
And I'm pretty pumped about it. So yeah, obviously, if you haven't seen the trailer for Transformers: Age of Extinction, just go to YouTube. Not now. You're watching us. When you're done, come back and check it out. We've got a whole new cast, whole new story. They're saying that this is going to be the best one yet. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Who's they?
They, I guess the people that they're making it.
Yeah.
Well, just the things they've been saying in the public about it, about how it's almost a reboot, right? It's not, but it's kind of, they're kind of approaching it like a reboot in some ways. So that leads me to believe that, the tone is going to be different, and hopefully, because that was always my least favorite thing about the films, is that they would get really silly at some points,
right?
Especially the second one. I mean, I don't really want to have to go into detail about that, but
it's kind of funny how the Dinobot has wings, yet everyone else just flies with like rockets and stuff.
But it's a dragon.
I know.
And see, it's specifically interesting to find out their origin, right? Because it's what makes them take the shape of actual, like organisms, when everyone else is just like walking
machines.
Right, yeah. Machines. Who had the idea of making a robot that looked like a dinosaur? So it's really interesting to find out the origin of that. But I think at this point that was a bonus trailer overdose for all of anyone who may be watching this and watches it afterward. But at this point, we're gonna go ahead and get into the actual main show itself. So get ready for a Geekly Dose.
All right, stay tuned, YouTube. Stay tuned, because it starts now. As soon as the thing starts. Oh, and guess what? I accidentally muted this a while back, so.
Oh.
So here we go. Welcome to Geekly Dose. I'm your producer, Jesse Sedgley, and now your hosts, Tim Bridgewater and Caitlin Franks.
Yes. Welcome everyone to a brand new episode of Geekly Dose, which is, of course, your number, 95 or so spot for all things geek. We're slowly moving our way back up the imaginary ranks ever since we returned. This is our second episode back after a really long hiatus. My name's Tim Bridgewater. I'm an actor and screenwriter. You can find me at facebook.com/TimBridgewater1 or TimBridgewater2. And, of course, I'm joined with my new co-host, Miss Caitlin Franks.
Hello. How are things?
Things are great. Things are good in the world of geeks. There's a lot of stuff to talk about this episode.
Absolutely.
How was your experience on your first episode with the Geekly Dose crew?
I enjoyed it. It was lots of fun. We talk a lot. That was long.
Yeah. If you happen to miss that episode, go back and listen to, I believe it's episode 38. It was definitely a supersized return episode. as they usually, if you trace the history of Geekly Dose, every time we took a long hiatus and we came back, it was just like, well, 2.5 hours have went by, and maybe we should stop. But yeah, we definitely talked a lot. So there's a lot of stuff in that episode if you wanna check it out. So, but obviously you enjoyed it enough to come back.
Yeah, sorry. No, a lot of fun. I've been busy. A lot of fun stuff: movies, comic books, video games. I'm getting more back into my gaming. I have a little more time now, which is great. So, yay!
And nothing can beat that. Like it's been the opposite for me. I've had a lot less time because I'm working my ass off. But I look forward to times like this where I can just come and talk. Oh yeah, no, it's gone. She just looked at my ass to see if it was still there. No, it is completely gone.
Where can they see that?
You can go to youtube.com/awesomepods. We're actually going to be streaming these now. Of course, if you listen to the podcast, it's not live for you, but the video itself will still be there when you go back. Right. And if you haven't had a chance yet, go over to facebook.com/awesomepods. That way you can keep track, and whenever we are about to record the next one, if you want to watch it live and tweet us questions or send us comments or anything like that, you can do that. But for that, you have to like facebook.com/awesomepods.
And of course, you can tweet those questions to @awesomepods,
yes,
or send the emails to geeklydose@gmail.com.
Yes, you can. We have a lot of methods of contact.
Yes.
Well, not only are you missing out on video, but you're also missing out on the trailer overdose.
That's right. We actually did a bonus. See, when we do these YouTube things, we're going to try, for the most part, to do something a little extra. So if you just happen to be paying attention to the live, broadcast and everything, when it airs, you get some bonus things. And do we want to tell them what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we already said it's trailer overdose, so
right. So
let's tell them which one.
That gives part of it. Yeah, we actually did a trailer overdose for the new Transformers film, Transformers Age of Extinction. So we're not going to talk about that during this actual episode. So go to youtube.com/awesomepods if you want to see video of us doing that.
It wasn't a different language, so go find out what it was.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys what we're going to discuss on today's episode. Give you the rundown. Lots of geek news, a lot of casting news to talk about today. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a segment called Geek Out. Now, this is a segment that we have pretty much done for a really long time. We just never really referred to it as Geek Out, and that's when now Caitlin and I will take a couple minutes to talk about something really geeky that we may have done since the last podcast, right?
Right.
So we're going to talk about that and just kind of catch up. That way we can let you guys know, that we are real geeks. This is authentic. We're not actors. Well, I am, but not in this.
Not in this format.
I'm just getting myself into trouble now, aren't I?
Step away.
So we're going to talk about that for a little bit, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the fact that some big news on the, two things. They finally announced officially that there is a Justice League film. I think we all knew that was coming anyway, okay? But more importantly, Zack Snyder is going to be directing that. So we're going to talk about that for a little bit. We're going to talk about some of the latest casting with the Batman vs. Superman film. Not much, really, mostly rumors, but one or two actual, new confirmations. We can talk about that for a little bit. Also, Star Wars casting, right? Just in time for May 4th. They just came out and said, these are the people that are in the film. It set the internet on fire for a couple days. We're going to talk and give our opinions on that. And for all the nostalgic female geeks, okay, I'm sure some guys watch this too, so don't take it like that. But there is a live-action Jim and the Holograms film that is in the works, and Caitlin is extremely excited about that. So basically, I'm just going to let her talk about it, and I'm going to kind of chime in on my thoughts on that, if I have any. I missed that sound effect. And then, yesterday or the day before, announced that there's a live-action reboot Power Rangers film in the works. I have very strong opinions about this, and you know what? You have to stick around to find out what those are, because this touches me in a very weird place.
Oh my.
Ooh. That didn't sound right.
No.
Man. Or maybe it sounded great. I don't know.
Muffin time.
Yes, thank you for that. And then we're going to talk about the Gotham trailer for the new Fox series. We talked a little bit about Gotham on the last episode.
Yep.
And now we actually have a trailer, okay? So all that speculation and stuff we had going on, now we actually have something to put it to and something to look at. So we're not going to break it down as in a trailer overdose sort of way, but we will give our general thoughts on it and what we think about it. And then we actually have an email. We got an email. I don't remember your name right now because he did admit that it was fake.
Well, the name was fake?
Yeah, he mentioned in the email that it's not my real name. It was something like Jack Joe or something. It was something,
right.
you know. But Jack Joe, Joe Jack, we're going to read your email on this episode and address it. And so we'll get more into that when we get to that point. And then for this week's trailer overdose, we're going to break down the one, the only X-Men Days of Future Past trailer.
So excited.
Yes,
So
which we have talked about our expectations and speculations on that. So now we have a full-length final trailer that we can break down. Once again, trailer overdose is a new segment. We're going to break it down. We're going to stop every couple seconds and just tear this thing apart and just dissect it from every possible angle.
Yes.
Right?
and expunge over how awesome it'll be and how we have to wait another 2 weeks.
That's right. See, expunge. See, we're already doing it. We're already doing it. And then last but not least, of course, we're going to end it with a movie review of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. We will do a spoiler-free review of that, and then we will go into spoilers. But, of course, as always, we will warn you before that happens, just in case you haven't had a chance to see The Amazing Spider-Man yet.
Yep. Good stuff.
So let's get into it. Geek Out. So I actually I just got in the mail. Well, I didn't just get them in the mail, but a couple weeks ago, I don't remember how I came upon this. I think I liked the Dragon Ball Z page on Facebook or something like that. And, you know, our longtime listeners will know that I am a Dragon Ball Z fanatic. I have a tattoo from the anime on my arm.
Show it on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. YouTube, this is my tattoo. If you want to see it, youtube.com/awesomepods. It's Shinron, the Eternal Dragon, along with all 7 Dragon Balls on my arm. So if you want to see
Balls
that.
on your arm. Gotcha.
Hey, I got this whole thing done in like 1 6-hour sitting too, from start to finish, and I still have like nightmares about that because it was just I had like tremors and. All right.
Yeah.
This is not Trimmer podcast.
No.
That's next week.
Right.
I've got balls of steel.
Dragon balls of steel. But yeah, so I happened to notice that there was this huge sale on the Dragon Ball Z Blu-rays. You know, not every single season, but like the first 4. It was like $15.99 a piece, and that's crazy because even the regular DVDs at regular price are more than that, and these were the Blu-ray versions. So I just got like all 4.
Yeah, that's
regular
great for
price,
any season,
yeah,
for any show nowadays, especially Blu-ray. So
exactly,
that's a kicking deal.
Yeah, and I mean it was like they were probably like $35 at regular price. You know, Funimation store. Funimation are the guys that actually brought us Dragon Ball Z in America. So if you never go to that site and you're a Dragon Ball Z fan, go there and check it out because they randomly have sales like that and you wouldn't even know.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I just went on and got the first 3 and I pre-ordered the next one at the discount. So I got those in and it's become sort of a yearly what's the word I'm looking for? A yearly tradition, so to speak, for me to rewatch Dragon Ball Z the entire series, right? So now I'm doing that, and it's just, man, I just love the show so much. I mean, yeah, okay, it's really dumb at some points. I mean, if you're a real fan of something, you can admit that. You know, I don't think anybody's claiming that Dragon Ball Z is the best written show ever because it's definitely not. But it looks great in Blu-ray. And you know it's all widescreened out, and they cleaned it up real nice and all that. The only thing, the main thing I wanted to mention about it, and since you guys haven't watched it, you won't really get this, but hopefully some of the listeners will get it. When Dragon Ball Z first started to air in North America, back in the Cartoon Network days, when about 10, 12 years ago, because I started watching it when I was like a sophomore in high school. There was a different group of voice actors than the ones that people know now. So there was this Canadian group of voice actors, and they did all the music and all of the dialogue and everything. What's funny about that?
Canadian. It's like if they had Canadian accents during Dragon Ball Z. It's like, how you doing, eh? We're gonna go into yeah. We're gonna fight them hosers over there.
Politely.
We'll give them a good talking to.
I feel like that's just like a YouTube parody or something. Just
waiting to happen.
right? Yeah. Ideas. Ding. Yeah, but when it first aired, there was this first group of actors, and then somewhere along the beginning of season 2, I believe, once they went to the planet Namek, they took it was a season finale, and they came back, and all of a sudden, everyone had new voices. So, as you know, I remember when it happened, so it was weird for me because I'm like, what? Why does everyone sound different all of a sudden?
The planet.
But see now, yeah, now those people, they've become the quintessential voice actors. Everyone knows that group now. You know, they're the ones that they go to all the comic conventions and stuff, and like Sean Schimmel and Christopher Sabat are like, that's Goku and Vegeta to us. But the funny thing is that they came in at that point in the series, right? So they finished, but then in the end they went back and re-recorded the beginning of the series with the new voice actors. But the funny thing is that when you're watching it now, so this is how it works. It starts off with the new voice actors, and they're really good voices, but then it switches to the same voice actors, but before they got the voices polished. So it's like the same voice actors, but they're not as good. And it's just a weird transition because one episode you're watching, and then the next episode is like, it's the same people, but the acting is not as good all of a sudden.
Oh, Lord.
And you know you're a massive Dragon Ball Z geek when you can point out stuff like that, which I am. But I just thought that was the funniest thing about it. But yeah, all around Dragon Ball Z. You know, I've talked about it a million times. I love it, and that's my geek news, my personal geek out.
There you go.
What about yours?
Mine was kind of similar. We were talking about doing this Geek Out segment, and I was lying in bed one night. I have Netflix and I have Hulu, and I was like, man, you know, there's a lot of really good animes out there. Let me just get into one and binge on it. And I start flipping through, and I'm looking at some, and of course I'm really just looking at whatever the picture is that they've got up there. And some of them looked a little interesting, and I'd read the description, and I'm like, no, I don't really want to watch this. And after flipping through, I finally land on Inuyasha, which I used to watch semi-regularly.
Mm-hmm.
I made it 20 minutes through the episode, and I was sound asleep. Very first episode. Not that it's not good. I don't know. I guess maybe I was just too tired. I don't know.
One of those shows that just don't hold up?
Right. Well, no, I wouldn't say that. It's a really good show. I think it more had to do with me. But then the next day we got up, we attended Comic Book Day, which I had to go round and round with my son in the line. We were at Louisiana Double Play, and he was trying to make him understand that May the 4th is Star Wars Day, but it fell on a Sunday, so Comic Book Day had to be on a Saturday because they weren't going to be open and rented. He's like, but it's not May the 4th. So it was beating my head against a brick wall. And then we went to Walmart and we bought all new geek shirts. You know, that's going to be kind of our tradition. My husband got a Star Wars one with Darth Vader and Princess Leia. It says, give me some space. Mine had Loki, as we all know from last episode. I'm a huge Loki fan.
Right.
My daughter got a really cool one. It's blue and it's Spider-Man, but it's like outlined, and the Spider-Man face is done with little bitty spiders, red spiders.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And so that's how they do the outline and around it, and then the inside they did little white spiders for the eyes, and it glows in the dark. Which she got.
Where'd you get the shirt from again?
Walmart in the kids section.
They have any in my size? I wear kid size shirts sometimes when I'm in better shape.
It's possible. It's possible. But yeah, it was just a really, really cool shirt. So he got that one, and then, or she got that one rather, and then my son got, I want to say it was Lego Marvel Superheroes, maybe. I don't remember.
You guys just sound like the greatest family ever.
We have so much
just a family
fun.
of geeks.
It's
that is when I have a wife and kids. I want us to be a family of geeks, man.
Yeah.
You know, a family of geeks who are also actors and musicians. That's all I want.
There you go.
And martial artists.
And the cool thing is my son kind of came to it. I mean, you know, we kind of pointed in that direction, but you know, he kind of came to it on his own. So it's
it's even better.
It's a fun thing. Yeah, he has a huge Spider-Man compendium book, and it's got all of the. I mean, it's like literally everything. My mother-in-law found it at Walmart, and so it's really cool that they're into the same things that we are. And then we left after that, and we went and saw Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Of course.
Which was great. So, but we'll talk more about that later.
Yes.
And then the other geek out thing I had was today, and so my mom. I love her to pieces. She doesn't get into the tech geeky things. I mean, she likes the comic book movies. She likes X-Men and all this other kind of stuff. And I happened to mention that we were doing the podcast tonight, and she goes, "Oh, I saw a ad on TV. There's a new Batman something or other coming out called Son of Batman. You ought to check that out and mention it." And so it was, it just came out this week, the 6th. Which was Tuesday. It's the 20th DC animated video.
Yeah.
And it's based off of one of the comic books, Son of Batman, I believe was the comic book. So it was really cool, voiced by a lot of people that you see regularly on TV. Ducky from NCIS is the voice of Alfred. Lots of really cool stuff. Jason O'Mara is doing Batman. He's done a lot of stuff. I believe he's done a lot of the Batman voices here lately, so he's kind of the go-to right now.
Yeah.
But I just kind of thought that was cool that my mom's kind of
just looking
geeking out
right?
with me.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, sweet mom.
My mom doesn't do that. I don't know. My mom doesn't have any idea of half the things I'm involved in. So she probably doesn't even know I do a podcast.
Oh, and then Morena Baccarin is also one of the voices in here, which I'm a huge Joss Whedon fan. If Joss Whedon's made it, I've watched it. And of course, if you know anything about Joss Whedon, she was in Aura and Serenity and Firefly, which is one of my favorite movies ever.
Okay.
So yeah, that was my geek out weekend.
Okay.
So.
Alrighty. Well, at this point, we're going to continue to geek out by jumping into a good bit of this news we've been getting lately. First on the docket, we're going to talk a little bit about the fact that the Justice League film has been officially confirmed, and that Zack Snyder of Man of Steel fame, also directing Batman vs. Superman, tentatively titled, will also be directing the Justice League film. So how do we feel about that?
I'm just glad that they're doing it so far. I mean, I'm apprehensive because they have, now that we've had Avengers, and some other kind of crossovers within the Marvel universe, there's, in my opinion, a lot to kind of live up to because Avengers was so good, So it's, how are they going to do it? Who are they going to put in it? I'm almost positive. I mean, with him also doing Batman versus Superman, they're automatically, there's your Batman and Superman already, and we've got Gal Gadot, who is casted as Wonder Woman in Batman versus Superman, so now you've got her. Stephen Amell needs to be Green Arrow, but that's just my 2 cents.
Hashtag Stephen Amell needs to be Green Arrow.
Right.
It's pretty long hashtag, but
Amell for Arrow. There we go. Shorten it.
I think you just solidified it with that. I think he's going to be Arrow in the movie thanks to you.
He needs to be.
Thanks to you. Hear that, Stephen Amell? Shout out to Caitlin Franks for getting you that part.
Yes.
No, he doesn't have the part. Don't misinterpret what we're saying. This is just speculation.
But it needs to happen.
This is wishful thinking.
It should happen.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The fact that Zack Snyder is directing this thing is not a surprise, nor is it really. No. It's not really news. I mean, it even makes sense. It makes sense for him to direct the Justice League because he's putting together, this whole universe. So why not have the same person oversee these films that are going to connect together?
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense. And even though I'm still not crazy about Man of Steel, it wasn't terrible or anything. I did like it, but I did have my issues with it. I'm still hopeful. Because one thing about Zack Snyder is that he does have that eye. He's very visionary, and you need a guy like that to bring all of these powers together on screen and have them make sense and look good and be able to see the big picture. And You know, I mean, at this point, I feel like WB and DC, they can't really afford to mess up. So if they're making a decision like this, I want to think that it's for good reason, you know.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much my same rationale for them casting Ben Affleck and casting Gal Gadot, is that they know if they mess up, that's it. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Marvel has already left them in the dust as it is.
Oh yeah.
So now they can't really afford to just completely just fuck this whole thing up. So with that being said, I'm optimistic about it.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. I mean, I think it's going to really turn me being more optimistic about it is going to very much depend on how Batman vs Superman comes out.
Of course.
You know.
Of course.
I mean, not to say that he couldn't do it completely differently, but I mean, the tone is definitely going to be, and the interaction between the characters, it's going to be very different from Avengers, which I think is good. I think it's going to be a lot darker and a lot more serious because, I mean, you know, if you look at what Joss Whedon, how he writes, you know, if you go through Dollhouse and Firefly and Dr. Horrible's Sing-Along blog, the thing that I enjoy about his writing so much is that it's very realistic. You could literally, I mean, just the whole scene in Avengers between Loki and Iron Man. He's like, I have an army. We have a Hulk. You know, just some of the things, the way he writes things, it's very, it makes sense. You could see those characters saying that. There's very much a sense of realism to it. But I think there's going to need to be a darker, more serious, and I think it's possible that he can do that. And I think it can be good. But as to whether or not it will be remains to be seen.
That definitely remains to be seen. And this is actually a good point. We were talking about Batman versus Superman. So let's go over and start talking about the latest casting for that, which I believe the only new official casting is a gentleman by the name of Ray Fisher has been cast as Cyborg.
Yes.
You know, if you're not familiar with Cyborg, he's one of those members of the Justice League that, you know, he's not always a member, but in the I believe in the most recent iterations he is. You know, Cyborg, African American guy. I believe he was like an athlete, and something happened to him, and you know, I mean, not the most original backstory, but.
Well, if you watch any of the DC animated films, there was Justice League War, which actually introduced Cyborg, and really, really good animated feature, by the by. And the only reason I'm thinking about it is because we watched it recently. We have it on DVD. And he was a football player for the Gotham Knights. I believe was the football.
That sounds right.
Well, but I know that there's something coming out that somebody did where they're doing the new 52 not new 52. They're doing some throwback of the women of the DC universe and doing them pinup style. But anyway, so yeah, he's a football player. Really bad accident when everything goes to hell in a handbasket because they unlocked, crab apples. My brain just does not want to work today.
It's one of those kinds of days.
Yeah, when they unearthed one of the bad guys in the DC universe. Yeah, so things went to hell in a handbasket. His dad was a scientist and experimented, and he tried to use the technology that they were getting from that to save it, using nanites to save his life. And it worked, but it forged him into this man machine.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And a badass cyborg was born.
Oh, yeah.
Now, of course, with this news, right, every time they announce another character, everyone's like, for God's sakes, just call it the Justice League already. But here's the thing. It's not going to be Justice League. It's going to be Batman vs. Superman. Like, he may not even become Cyborg in this film. He may just be Victor Stone. You know, they may just introduce him, and, like, I don't think he's going to have this massive part of Cyborg in it.
Well, but think about this, though. Marvel has done such a good job, not to go back to them again, but they've done all of these standalone movies. If they want to catch up, if DC Warner Brothers wants to catch up to where Marvel is now, already Age of Ultron, Avengers 2, they have to start introducing these characters, and there's not enough time to have a Cyborg movie and a Wonder Woman movie, although that should absolutely happen and needs to, like, half past yesterday. But, there's not enough time to really do those movies the same way they did all of the standalone Marvel movies. They need to start introducing these characters and playing catch-up. And with Stephen Amell already playing Arrow, they've already got that built in there, so they should just go ahead and do that.
Well, once again, I agree with that, but that does. But then, do you also bring in the guy who's playing Flash on the TV? You know what I mean? That show hasn't come on yet.
Seen.
But then it's like, then you start to pick and choose who you want. It's like, oh, we'll take the Arrow from TV, but we're not taking the Flash because this show tanked. And then it just makes them look even worse than they already look. So that's going to be very tricky, right?
They're not going to do it. They're not going to mix universes. It's just like different comic books.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would definitely assume that they wouldn't, but like you were saying, they're trying to play catch up, and when you're desperate, you do weird things, and which is why this is exactly why they're doing this to begin with, because we're getting Batman versus Superman, and then we're getting Justice League. There's nothing else in between there. That's a huge jump.
Exactly. So that's, in my mind, that's the only thing that really makes sense. That you start introducing these characters. Like you said, he might just be Victor Stone, but by the end of the movie, he has an accident, and then you see him as Cyborg within the Justice League movie, because you got to start putting these pieces together to make it all fit. And so to just have Batman versus Superman without all of these other people, and then make a giant leap without any type of origination whatsoever into Justice League, it just doesn't.
Yeah, that would have been a bad idea. Like, I don't think this is a great idea, but I feel like they kind of have to go this route if they want to get to Justice League. I'm just hoping this just doesn't blow up in their faces, because we all know when you shove too many characters in a movie, what can happen.
Right, and they don't have really the type of time and effort to do what Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has done in its origination story after origination story after origination story, which is why Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. lost so many viewers over the season.
Yeah.
They need to have some type of origination without, they can't go all the way back to the island to get Diana. At some point she just kind of does have to show up and then do her movie later, and then maybe do it as a prequel. And, at the end of the movie, she shows up in the timeline where Justice League starts. So there's got to be something there, but at the same time, you don't want to over-originate the movie.
Yeah, I know, and that's why it's so tricky. It's so tricky. The more I think about it, it's going to be an interesting thing to try to pull off, because, like you said, they won't be able to go into this detailed history of Diana in this Batman versus Superman movie. She's going to kind of have to show up, and some stuff's going to kind of have to happen, and we're just going to have to buy who she is, because a lot of us know her backstory already, and then we'll have to wait until they decide to go further into it.
And that's kind of one thing that I think will work in DC's favor, is that a lot of us do know the origin stories. We don't need all of that, for the majority of the audience.
Yeah.
So we can just kind of jump in, and we know kind of what happened before. So that's one thing that could definitely work in their favor.
Okay, well, it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. And the other casting was just rumors. We've been hearing about Jason Momoa. We've been hearing about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It's just more and more rumors. There's a rumor now about Matt Damon. It just never stops.
Good grief.
So,
Wasn't there a rumor that they were going to throw the Wonder Twins in there somewhere?
Probably.
No.
Probably.
Wonder Twins do not need to activate. Stay wherever they
but yeah, the rumors about Jason Momoa have gotten really strong, though. So, I wouldn't be surprised if we get some kind of an announcement of him signing on as someone who we don't know. They're talking about Doomsday, they're talking about Aquaman, they're talking about, just anyone. So if they were smart, they would get him on board somewhere.
Yeah.
If they were smart, they would get The Rock locked in there somewhere.
Yes.
You know, I mean,
absolutely.
why not? You know, those guys work perfectly for movies like this.
Oh yeah.
When you need huge muscle-bound heroes and villains.
And I hadn't heard about Jason Momoa as possibly being Aquaman, but that would be awesome because Aquaman's kind of like the redheaded stepchild of the Justice League. Poor guy. I really feel bad for him. But it would kind of give them an opportunity to kind of take Aquaman in another direction.
It would.
You know, kind of not necessarily rewrite the Aquaman story, but give him a
well, we'd definitely be giving him the group more diversity. By
give him a little bit better look than
Yeah.
just the blonde hair and what have you, and you know,
which would be
because the last
great
time we've
idea.
seen anything Aquaman related was when I can't think of his name, but there was supposed to be an Aquaman show that was supposed to be a spin-off or a prequel from Smallville, and the guy that was playing that ended up playing Green Arrow in Smallville did that one. Kyle Browder, I think his name is. No, I'm thinking of somebody else.
Oh, you mean Justin Hartley?
Justin Hartley, thank you. Both of them were on soap operas that I used to watch years ago, and so it's all kind of rumbling together. But yeah, just Justin Hartley, you know. And I did see that pilot. It was fairly good for what it was.
Oh, it actually aired, the pilot?
No, but I think
there's online or something.
Yeah, I think somebody leaked it online.
Just like the Wonder
something.
Woman one. Like the Wonder Woman show
I
that they made.
did not ever see that.
Yeah, it never aired. I mean,
right.
NBC shut that down as soon as they saw the pilot.
Was it that bad?
Apparently it was. Like the pilot was on the internet, and like I've heard people who have seen it just completely condemn it. Like they said that was the best thing ever for them to not let that thing out. Like that's how bad it was.
Yeah, it's Wonder Woman's kind of tricky. It really is. I wish they really need to do it right.
Which hopefully, you know, now with this approach in the films, they'll get it right. And we're kind of looking at an intro from, I guess, from that pilot in 2011. I can't believe it was that long ago. That can't be the real theme song, though.
No, that's the original theme song. Oh. And I know a lot of people had a lot of problem with the Wonder Woman suit.
Yeah, they did. They didn't like the pants and everything. You can look at this on YouTube, Wonder Woman 2011 intro, if you want to see this.
But I think it was fairly... I didn't think the costume was that bad.
Well, yeah, in my opinion, it's. I mean, yeah, it kind of looks like a Halloween costume, but what do? You find yourself in a situation where you're trying to adapt something, and people, if you change it too much, people are going to complain. If you keep it the same, people are going to complain. If you try to do your own thing, people are going to complain. I mean, this does look pretty corny, though.
It reminds me very much of Birds of Prey.
Oh, especially with that at the end.
It looks very Birds of Prey. And Birds of Prey was good for when it was.
Right.
Which was years before this.
Yeah, and this was in 2011. So.
Right. So, which really, no.
Good call there, NBC.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. A little bit. Let's get on with this casting news that we have here. Now we're going to jump into the big purple. I try to do this every episode, and sometimes I get it right, sometimes I mess up. The big purple, red, blue, and green elephants in the room. Those, of course, are like lightsaber colors.
Yes.
Star Wars casting.
Yes.
Our producer stepped out for a second, so I don't know any of these people's names. But
no, I don't
okay. Yeah, we've got a brand new cast. They finally made that announcement.
Which was actually right before we all kind of expected something with May the 4th and all that thing, but they kind of dropped it a couple days before, probably because it was a Sunday. I think they dropped it maybe Thursday or Friday before that. Yeah. So not a bad call.
Yeah. I mean, these actors aren't, from what I understand, they're not completely unknown. They have credentials and experience and etc. I can't say I've seen any of them in anything that I can think of. Andy Serkis is one of them, though, which if you know anything about motion capture in Hollywood, and Lord of the Rings, and
he's basically Mr. Motion Capture.
Yeah, he's like the greatest. I mean, he's probably the best motion capture actor on the planet. Oh
yeah.
Like that's him doing all that stuff and Rise of the Planet of the Apes and the sequel. So that leads us to believe that, I mean, they could just be hiring Andy Serkis to just be a regular actor in the film, but he's probably going to motion capture some fully CGI character.
Right.
Who's that going to be? We have no idea. Once again, they've pretty much discounted the expanded fiction, and they're pretty much saying now, we're just going to do what we want, and we're not going to really take all of that into consideration unless we feel like there's a good place for it. I'm excited that there is a black guy in the cast. That is exciting for me. I wish it was me, but...
You mean other than... Why is this happening today?
What you mean, Samuel L. Jackson or
no
Billy D. Williams?
Billy D. Williams.
There's only like 3, so
Billy
yeah,
D.
there's not many.
So another black guy other than
count,
Billy D. and Nicholas Fury,
as a black guy either.
right?
Yeah, no, we've got Oscar Isaac, John Boyega, once again Andy Serkis, and of course we've got our main guys reprising their roles, Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher, and even Anthony Daniels, the C-3PO.
I met him once.
You did.
Oh,
you did.
It was awesome.
He's got to be pretty old now,
right?
He's gonna die on set. They're shooting in the
good
desert.
Lord, please no. Please no. And Peter Mayhew is
Mayhew's
Chewbacca
back too, and that guy, man, he is hanging on too, because with a frame like that, it's amazing that you can survive.
Yeah, because you have to worry about enlarged heart problems and all that kind of stuff, which really worries me about him being in that suit. I've seen that suit in person. It's friggin' huge, and it has a lot of fur. So, but maybe with modern technology and fabrics and whatnot, they'll make him a lighter version with some air conditioning or something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone wants to see this, but they could have always CG Chewie. I mean. No, I don't. No,
Put
trust
someone
me.
else in the suit.
Trust me, I don't want them to do that.
No.
But didn't they do that? They did that in in one of the prequels. Like they CG Yoda, Chewie, all the Wookiees were CG in that movie.
Yeah, but Yoda actually looked good.
He did.
Yoda looked.
Yeah, well, yeah, because if you go back and look at Yoda's puppet, he is kind of fucked up looking. I mean, let's be honest, he's little.
Especially hanging around on Mark Hamill's back, like freaking sanctuary.
But this is a great photo that they released. I mean, it's just like the whole principal cast, the director, producers, just having a table read, and that's just an amazing shot. Like even R2D2 is there. I don't know if somebody photoshopped him in there, but he's there.
No, I think
he's actually there. He looks like he's there, so that's awesome.
We've also got Adam Driver and Daisy Ridley, which obviously everyone is doing what now? We're all trying to speculate at who these characters are going to be. And the only thing you really have to base any sort of speculation on is the expanded fiction, which they're saying doesn't really count. So who knows who any of these people are?
But wasn't there actually written a 789? Didn't he actually write a 789? I mean, because we've got so many different versions of you go to Barnes & Noble and look up Star Wars fiction. I mean, there's 50 million different iterations of how that universe played out.
All the expanded fiction. But in addition to that, there was George Lucas always planned on making, I think he actually wanted to make 12 films in the beginning, and I don't know how far he got into writing 7, 8, 9. But he planned on shooting those until the backlash of the prequel trilogy kind of killed his buzz on that.
I understood he had written 7, 8, and 9.
Maybe so.
They're not going to use it though.
No, they're not.
No way.
Well, that's how far back the last I had heard anything before this, was dropped on us, was that they were going to use 7. Now, I can't say.
There's no.
I don't want to say that George
to do that.
True, absolutely. I will completely agree with you. But I mean, it seems kind of far-fetched that it would be bad. That George Lucas would write something so bad that they would go, no, there's no way we're going to use this.
Yeah, I think what they're doing is they're just, he's just kind of there for advice, right? So they're like, they may have read his script and say, you know what, we like what you did with this guy, we like what you did with this, and they may just pick and choose what they want out of his stuff, and then the rest of it's going to be theirs, as it should be. He gave up his rights to everything, and many people are still pretty unsatisfied with the way he left the franchise, so I don't think they're going to be taking too much of his advice. But he's George Lucas, I mean, he still created this whole thing, so give him the respect and at least, acknowledge his ideas and concepts and everything.
Right.
So, but I mean, it's not much news on that. Once again, we don't know who these people, the characters are going to be. but it's just exciting to see, you know, after all this time, you know, which hasn't been that long since episode 3, but that is just exciting, right? It's exciting that we actually have characters now.
Absolutely.
And hopefully, I'm hoping that this lady Daisy Ridley is one of the main characters, because we all want to see females be a little bit more prominent in this series now. You know, as a hero or something. Like, if she's not a Jedi or something, then I'm gonna be pissed. You know, because we do need to see more diversity in these films. You know, and that would be a very good way to start off this franchise, with something just unexpected, because I don't want to see the same stuff over and over again. We don't need like the son of Luke being like the savior of everything or something.
Well, there is a within the expanded literary universe.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say Luke and his wife have twins, and it's a boy and a girl.
Well, I know
There's
that
a shock, right? You know,
I know Han and Leia have twins.
Okay, so maybe it's been a while since I've read one of those iterations.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, and their children, one of their children was actually the one that was supposed to bring balance to the Force. So it's really.
I don't want to.
I know, yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Part of it, you kind of, in some strange way, you kind of want to have some of that there, like more of a nod to it, but then not. Yeah. No, let's go over here and do something.
Yeah, don't
new.
Get me wrong. I mean, like, you know, this series, this saga has always revolved around the Skywalker family. Okay, so I don't necessarily expect that to change drastically.
Right.
But that person doesn't have to be the focal point this time around. I mean, we don't know how big of a role the original 3 are going to have in this. From what I understand, it's pretty big, though.
And no more kids driving speeders. Let's just, you know, kids driving speeders, and then Luke's a pilot. And,
but you know something, though? You know, the bad thing about that now is that Disney owns this now. Like, and even then, when episode 1 came out with all the speeders and stuff, Disney had nothing to do with that, and that movie was childish as fuck. You know? And now they own the franchise, so it makes you wonder what's going to happen now.
And not only that, you know, whereas the rest of the world on May the 4th weekend has Free Comic Book Day, Disney has the whole freaking week is Star Wars week. Everything in Disney World and Disneyland is taken over. I mean, Star Wars explodes. And I think throughout the whole year they have a Star Wars experience where you can go and they have Jedi that train you, and then you know, and adults and kids can do it. And then Darth comes out, as well as one of the female with no hair that's completely white, whose name also escapes me. Jeez, I got to do more research. But, you know, they come out and you get to fight them and this, that, and the other. And, you know, I've watched some of the stage shows that they do. They're really cute. They're really funny. But, yeah, I mean, Disney's, as Disney will do, they take over and run with it.
That's always been my biggest fear about anything that Disney got involved in, that they would overmarket and oversaturate everything with it, and just we will be sick of it. I mean, hopefully that won't happen with Star Wars or anything, you know, else. But
well, Disney also has a stake in Marvel, and I don't think we're too overly saturated with that. No. So maybe they'll just take a clue.
Yeah,
they're trying, but they're
definitely dipped their foot in there with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You know, that was their real attempt to be like, hey, let's just go ahead and put Marvel Avengers stuff everywhere.
I'm telling you though, if you can get past the first 5-6 episodes, okay, then just jump in at episode 7 or 8. I'll be honest with you, I watched it so that I could watch Phil Coulson, because he's one of my favorite characters.
All right, 10 episodes of Geekly Dose from now. We'll see if I still have went back and watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I'm not holding my breath. Not at all. Unless I hog tie you and hold your eyes open. Watch, Tim, watch!
Okay. All right. Well, once again, Star Wars casting, big news all around. You know, we'll stay tuned. Of course, we will update you guys on future episodes with our big announcements that happen from now on. So now from huge news like Star Wars, shifting over to even bigger news, the biggest casting news of the decade. Jim and the Holograms
Jim and the holograms.
Hey, she's truly outrageous. Truly,
She
truly,
was.
truly
outrageous
apparently.
with her pink hair.
If you go back a couple episodes in Geekly Dose, we had Nostalgia Cast 1 and 2. One of those episodes, Jim popped up in our Nostalgia Cast, which we'll be doing more of those in our Nostalgia Cast journey. And we talked very briefly about Jim because none of us have watched it. I believe Melissa, Jesse's wife, was in here, and she was the only person who could offer any sort of insight on Jim. So what do you feel about this?
I'm cautiously optimistic. Now, if you go back at some of the information about Jim previously, Jim was basically, it was a joint effort between Hasbro, Marvel Productions, and Sunbow. And they also did G.I. Joe and Transformers. So this was their answer to girls.
Right.
Basically,
Yeah.
they had done well with G.I. Joe. They had done well with Transformers. And so they wanted to get kind of the girl market in, you know, because there was a lot of merchandising to go with all that, you know, and girls have to have accessories for everything.
Made
so,
sense.
you know,
Mhm.
and so this was kind of their toe into the Barbie market and what have you. So it ran 3 seasons from 85 to 88. It was received very well. Jim was actually the main character, and she wasn't. So the main character was Jerrica Benton, and she was the owner of a music company called Starlight Music, which she inherited from her father. Along with a multimedia holographic machine called Synergy. And that was the basis of this show. She would use Synergy on her earring, and Synergy would project a hologram over her, and she would become Jim, who was the lead singer of Jim and the Holograms. And Synergy would use her holographic prowess to create special effects at shows, so forth, and they lived in a house with a bunch of orphans called the Starlight Girls. And they had bad guys. They had the more punk rock, the Misfits that kind of
that's right.
were against them, and we're going to be better than you, and, you know, this, that, and the other. And so this was their answer to that. Now, as far as the movie, I know they are changing it. They are still going to have Jerrica and her sister Kimber within the show, but instead of her being basically an adult as a music company owner and producer and manager and this, that, and the other, it's going to be Jerrica and Kimber are orphans that are discovered and form a band. So it's definitely going to be a different iteration because, I mean, obviously, more than likely, you're going to have Marvel involved because they probably own the original rights. Of course, I'd have to look that up to see exactly who has, you know, who's taking over that function. But they've cast some pretty much relatively
They're pretty unknown.
Unknowns
right?
For the most part. You can get the old Jim and the Holograms on Netflix, those 3 seasons, and watch that. So if you want to get yourself kind of familiar with who they are, what they're about. And it was typical 80s Saturday morning cartoon.
Right,
Misfits come in and, you know, mess things up, possibly put someone in danger, and then they get involved and everything's happy hunky-dory, and here's our lesson for the day. So, let's see.
So would you say you're excited about it?
I am. It's going to be interesting. I think it has the possibility to, if they try and stay, I mean, with them changing the backstory, they can't stay too close to the original incarnation, like they've tried to do with Transformers. But they went out the box for this new Transformers, and it looks like it's going to be interesting. If you're not sure what we're talking about, you need to go check the YouTube. So for our breakdown, but they're going to have to do a new storyline, and it could work. I mean, it worked for the first Transformers, no matter how bad good it was. It basically worked. I would say it worked for G.I. Joe. I don't know how you feel about the first G.I. Joe.
Yeah, that's a very tough question to answer there. Yeah, I don't know.
And I don't know how I feel about the second G.I. Joe either.
Right,
I mean, I liked it. And,
neither
and
of them
I
were very good. I mean, I enjoyed the first one more just as a popcorn flick, and the second one was just really stupid.
Yeah.
So, well, I'll tell you this. This film excites me, you know, not because I watched it, because I didn't, but I did,
Right.
you know, I mean, I remember it being there because it always would come on before or after something that I watched. And I think I had a crush on Jim. I mean, because it had like that rotoscoped like intro where they would use like real people.
Yeah.
And just animated over them. So they, you know, in the beginning, okay, this is getting creepy. But yeah, I'm excited for this because, you know, us guys, I mean, obviously girls can like the same stuff guys like it is, but obviously,
vice versa, right.
in society, right, these movies, Transformers, G.I. Joe, now it's Power Rangers, you know, there's a lot of guy stuff being brought back to the forefront and getting reboots and live action versions, and I'm excited that any girls that watch that show will get to see one of their favorite shows get turned into something.
Right, because it's very much a throwback to our childhood and the
and that's
awesomeness
what's important
that was our childhood, you know? If you grew up in the 80s, heck yeah, you're awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the only thing, as a girl, I would love to see a live-action She-Ra, but they'd have to do it much better than they did the Masters of the Universe. Poor Dolph Lundgren. Yeah, with the way things are going, you know, it could happen. They could do another version of He-Man. They could do they could do a live-action version of She-Ra. You know, there's a lot of especially with because if you watch the old Masters of the Universe with Dolph Lundgren, holy crap, it's painful.
They're doing a new one.
It's
a new He-Man.
Oh.
Yeah. So
and
that's
now
a
they have the
success. Look out for
technology
She-Ra
now
to come next.
Yeah, they have the technology now to make it look good, as opposed to whatever that heck that was.
Yeah.
So now in the title role of Jerrica Jem is Aubrey Peoples. The only thing she's really been in is Sharknado.
Oh, well, I've heard.
But they're getting ready. Yeah, they're getting ready to do Sharknado 3. So you know.
I guess take that for what it is. Huh?
But she was also in the ABC drama series Nashville, which is known for a lot of the stars there having to sing their own music and whatnot.
Okay, so she has some
that gives her something. The only thing that makes me wonder is if you go back and you watch with them changing the story. If you go back and watch the original, Synergy was developed by Jerrica Benton's father, and when he passed away, not only did he bequeath her Starlight Music, he bequeathed her Synergy. So with her and Kimber being orphans, instead of running an orphanage, how are they going to bring Synergy into the picture? If
you watch Jim and you have any thoughts or opinions or theories for Caitlin on that, send us an email at geeklydose@gmail.com. If you happen to be watching right now, send us a little message or tweet at us or something. We'll get the producer to check it out and see. So yeah, if you have any theories, that'll help that. I don't have any because I'm not familiar with it.
And that Twitter address is at AwesomePods.
It is in fact at AwesomePods.
So, but yeah, I'm excited. They threw out a little teaser picture with them kind of in all the girls from Jim and the Holograms in profile in their quote-unquote stage makeup, and if you watch Jim, you know what that means. You know, because usually Synergy would project over at least Jim, and the outfit would look, well, I can show you here, even though we don't have Jesse in here. Whoop. It would be, it helps if I don't turn off my phone so I can show you. But it would be, her outfit would be similar to what she would be wearing as Jerrica. And so there would be a superimposed image, and Synergy was so good that she could actually, you know, people could interact with Jerrica, touch her, you know, this, that, and the other without it disrupting the hologram, which is pretty dang good.
Okay.
So the technology's there for them to be able to do that and do it well, you know, with the nice light. She had the light shimmers. A la She-Ra when she would change holograms. So, you know, I think it has the potential to do really well, especially with a lot of these unknown people who obviously can sing and can perform.
Well, good.
And go in that direction.
And
I'm excited.
I am 100% cheering for the success of this film for those reasons I listed earlier. You know, I knew girls that watched the show and everything, and you know, it'd be cool to see something like that come back from my childhood that was geared more to females to get some attention. And then if this is a success, then because you know how Hollywood is, it's like, well, they did Jim and that was a success. What else can we reinvigorate, right?
Right.
They already did.
Space Ghost.
Oh, I would love to see that. Space Ghost would definitely have to be a comedy though.
Oh yeah.
Like.
Oh yeah.
But they did what was that, Josie and the Pussycats, like in the 90s or something like that? Was that any good? I think I may have seen it. But
was interesting.
So in other words,
it wasn't bad. It wasn't
here's
bad.
our
but
second chance, right?
But if you think about Josie and the Pussycats, the original cartoon, it was very kind of campy, and they kind of went with that, whether they intended to or not. I mean, the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer was not supposed to be as campy as it was, and it was the movie was campy as all get out. So especially when you've got Pee Wee Herman in the background,
I love that
for
scene.
like 20 minutes. I know, and you go through the credits, and he's still sitting there in the corner, stomping his foot, you know. So, but yeah, it was all right. It was all right.
Okay. Well, best wishes to everyone involved with Jim and the Holograms.
Absolutely.
You know, and then you guys want to come on Geekly Dose and get a little, you know, we'll do some interviews or something like that. I mean, yeah, we're here to help you.
Exactly.
Okay? So just hit us up, geeklydose@gmail.com. All right. Now, going from your childhood to my childhood, we're going to talk briefly about this new, damn it, Power Rangers live action film that just was announced. And you may be wondering why I'm saying it with that kind of intensity and frustration in my voice. Is because if you go back and listen to several episodes ago of Geekly Dose, I came on here and I mentioned the fact that I started writing a Power Rangers script like 2 years ago for a reboot, sort of dark and gritty. I don't want to pretend like I'm the first person to ever have that idea, because clearly I'm not. But you know how it is when you have an idea for something and then they make it and you're like, God damn it. If only I had finished the script or sent it in or something. So yeah,
done it.
There's not much news on this. It's literally all we know is that Saban, okay, the massive company that owns Power Rangers and is responsible for it lasting 25 years in different iterations, announced that they're joining up with Lionsgate Films, the company that's behind the Hunger Games, Twilight, some other stuff, but you know, those huge franchises. They're going to join with them, and they're going to make a new live-action Power Rangers film, which right now they're saying is going to be a reboot. But it's very tricky because that show still exists, and it's still on TV, and it's still extremely campy. It's supposed to be. It's geared towards kids. But, you know, this movie is looking like it's not going to have much to do with the show. Not if they want it to be a success, a massive success. And if they want adults and people with the nostalgia factor to go out and see it, you know, they're making it sound like it's a reboot of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the very first incarnation of the series, because there's been like so many of them. There's Power Rangers Samurai and all this kind of stuff. And that's the one I grew up watching, was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So it's probably going to be the original 6 Rangers or 5, depending on how they decide to go with that. In my idea, which I'm not going to put it all out there, but in my idea, that's what it would have been. in my script, yeah, I was going to go with the original 6 and start with them, and you know, and just basically just make it realistic, because you know, the funny thing about this is usually when you hear about something that you grew up watching getting a reboot of some sort, people just complain about it. Right. Forever, but everybody's kind of like, you know what? If you go back and watch Mighty Morphin Power Rangers now, it is definitely one of the most ridiculous shows you will ever see. Yeah, so, very much so. Yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, if anything can be rebooted and stand to benefit from it, it's the original Power Rangers show. Yeah. So this is exciting, but
did you watch the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie years and years?
I did. Oh yeah, I saw it in the theater twice.
Yeah, I won't say that, but I had a little brother, you know, and he's quite a few years younger than me, and so the two things we watched on the regular was Space Jam and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and I will admit to continuing to watch without him for a while, but you know, that movie, for what it was and for the time and the technology available, was fairly decent.
Oh yeah,
it was
like as a kid, that movie was like my favorite movie of all time, just because it was a spectacle and I was a kid and I loved Power Rangers, you know.
And who doesn't want, you know, forget 30 minutes, 2 hours worth of Power Rangers? Heck yeah.
Yeah. And that movie, once again, terrible movie now. as an adult. You
Yeah.
you have to rely on
It
the
has its
nostalgia
moments.
factor.
Yeah.
If you don't rely on that, you will hate the film. I mean, that's just how it is. You know what I mean? Like, it's not one of those, like, the original Ninja Turtles movie still holds up now as a great movie to me. But Power
The
Rangers,
original, yes. We're not going to talk about 3.
no.
3
The first
doesn't
one.
exist.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just right for reboot, and this is like I said, I had an idea, I started writing it, and I'm still gonna write it. But what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna write a treatment. I'm gonna write like a 30-page treatment, and then I'm gonna make a YouTube video of me talking about my ideas, and I'm gonna be like, if you like these ideas, help me get it to Lionsgate, so they can
This is
maybe
where
I
you
can
can
get
find
into
me.
right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that.
Do it.
And because I came up with some things that I think are really cool, and it's not just geeky fan stuff, because all the geeky fans are just saying, oh, if it's not the original cast, then I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah,
you
but,
do realize these people are like in their 40s now, some of them, right? They can't play teenagers anymore.
I mean, Jason David Frank is still in fairly good condition.
Yes.
Of course, he's doing MMA and whatnot,
Mhm.
but I mean, no, I don't
No.
see that happening.
And it's just funny because I like Jason Frank's page on Facebook, and like, you know.
What's his response been?
Well,
I have to ask.
Yeah, when this thing was announced, he started posting like because everyone's like, Jason, you have to be in this film. So he's like, well, if you want me to be in the film, here's some numbers to people at Lionsgate, and he like posted like numbers, and I think he deleted them later on because he probably realized that probably wasn't a good idea. But yeah, everybody wants him to be in there, and
or somebody called him and went, dude, dude, really?
Yeah. I'm gonna say this: he has always had a role in my script.
Awesome.
Not as Tommy the Green Ranger, but he was always in there. I have a character for him because I feel like he's always been my favorite Power Ranger. So I would want to see him in there too. So hopefully they do get him in there in some
And
form.
he's been back in some of the other iterations of,
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
as
Like,
a
he's still doing
mentor,
it.
you know,
Yeah.
Dr. Tommy Oliver, you know, da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've caught some of the other ones.
Mhm.
Flipping channels.
You have children?
None of my children watch it.
Well, I was trying to help you out.
I
there.
know. I shouldn't have said anything, but.
No, it's okay. It's all right. But yeah, there's not. Once again, that's all the news on it, and I just wanted to express my both excitement and frustration because I have so many ideas, and I just feel like, you know, I just at least want them to consider some of the things I have. So I'm going to try. If you want to help me with that, you know, stay tuned to youtube.com/TimDog326. There'll be a video popping up on there soon with me pleading and explaining if I were to be making this film, how I would do it. And what you need is a geek who knows it, but you also need someone who's like a screenwriter and knows, you know, I mean, obviously I'm not famous, but I do know how to write screenplays, and I do know film. So you need someone who can do both. You need a Joss Whedon type guy in there who's like, he's a big geek, but he's also like a filmmaker.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
And I have some experience with that. So Lionsgate, I'm coming for you.
Where can you see some examples of that, Tim?
Oh, you can see a lot of examples of that over at Sedgley Films on YouTube, SEIDULE Films. You can also head over to Tim Bridgewater 2 on Facebook, and you can see a lot of that stuff too.
There you go.
And we've got a new film we're working on now that I actually wrote, and we've been shooting and everything. So yeah, you know, I do my thing. Okay, so enough about Power Rangers. Yes, extremely. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on that. Excited, but I'm a little apprehensive. We'll see what happens once we get more news on it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to shift over now and just give our quick, brief thoughts on the new trailer for Gotham. We talked about this on the last episode. Fox is pretty much greenlit, ordered a full season for this show. It's going to tell the origins of Bruce Wayne, Batman in a way, but it's mostly focused on James Gordon, who at this point is probably just going to be a detective or something, maybe even an officer. They may just start him off as a street cop or something and just build all the way. But I think he's a detective.
Yeah, the way it looked, the way it reads
trailer,
to me in the trailer is that he's a detective. And I have to say, I mean, if you listen to the last episode, I was very apprehensive. You know, we had casting, but after watching this, I'm kind of stoked.
It looks awesome.
It really, I might have to get my cable reactivated and get my DVR back, because between Arrow and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything else, I mean, I'm not going to have time otherwise. But this looks really good. And there were a lot of people that I spotted in the trailer that I didn't even know had been cast in this.
Yeah.
So it was just like, whoa, you know, people who not to say that the ones that I knew of, don't have any legitimate acting chops, but Jada Pinkett Smith,
she's in there.
I was like, what? The only thing that I didn't care for the way they played her in the trailer is that she, for a minute, you almost thought she was Catwoman until you got closer to the end of the trailer.
Oh, really?
So that's the way it kind of read to me. I was like, what?
Well, I mean, but you know that Selena Kyle's a kid in this, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and she's in the trailer, too.
But if you don't know, if all you're catching is portions of it, like him,
Donald Logue, yeah.
I had, and he's such a great actor.
Yeah,
I had no idea that he was going to be in this. So, I mean,
and that guy was in like isn't that the guy
Which
from
guy?
Oh, right.
the one that
Yeah.
that I believe is
That's why I was
slated
laughing
to
earlier.
be Edward Nygma.
Yeah,
It's like we're doing an Audible podcast.
Yeah,
You're like, that
I
guy.
forget that sometimes. But yeah, I believe it's the guy who's playing. I believe he's playing the Oswald Cobblepot, who's going to become the Penguin.
Oh yeah.
But that dude, he always plays like these really like quirky type, like eccentric, dark sort of roles, and it's just exciting. I mean, here we have a shot with Bruce. We get to see Bruce Wayne's parents get murdered, which we've seen that in the movies before. Yeah, I mean, it's not new, but it'll definitely be interesting to see it from this perspective when we get to see the aftermath and how. I mean, we're watching Gordon give Bruce advice on.
How to be Batman.
Basically,
because
on
Batman
fear.
is the ultimate detective, and so he's learning about being a detective from a detective.
Exactly.
So it's very much.
That's why I'm so excited about this, and it looks awesome. I mean, the production value is there. It's exciting.
Yeah, he's gonna be Penguin.
I mean, you gotta love. Well, they have to tell you this in the trailer because people. They have to mention, well, all these people are going to be here, right?
Yeah, I didn't even realize that they were going to be throwing Poison Ivy in this as well, which makes it very interesting. Yeah, that
was a surprise to me. I knew about Catwoman and Penguin and Riddler. I didn't know anything about Poison Ivy, so that's cool. Though I feel like it's going to get a little weird at some point. It's like, all of these people just happen to be lifelong criminals before they became supervillains.
I don't think they're going to play it like that.
Well, at least not with Poison Ivy. I think she's but then why is she on here? You know what I mean? Like, what is Pamela Isley doing here if she's not a villain yet? She can't be a scientist either. She would still be like a teenager.
Well, but I mean, they're showing her there with a spray bottle, kind of quirky looking in a room full of plants.
Yeah.
So
I guess she'll just be working at a plant shop or something.
Yeah, or
she'll be preparing to get her doctorate in
well, not at
14, plantology or whatever.
But you're showing that there was already a love of plants and herbology and all that kind of stuff prior to the accident.
I guess I think that's the thing I'm worried about is that they'll start shoving that kind of stuff in there like really early on, and then it'll be like, but it hasn't happened yet. You know what I mean? Like Selena Kyle's not Catwoman yet. If they start making her like have this weird love of cats as a kid, it's just going to be weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, if you look at just in this trailer how she moves, it is somewhat acrobatic and cat-like.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know.
But yeah, I'm saying that, but I'm so excited about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. To me, there has to be some type of something somewhere.
There's got to be an indication.
I mean, it's just like
gonna,
think about the original Batman movie with Jack Nicholson. There was already a smile there before he was dumped in toxic sludge. It just over accentuated when that happened.
Yeah.
As opposed to like a Spider-Man-esque where it's just I'm geeky and or even Captain America where I'm small and geeky and pale and wormy, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. No. This thing is. I was already optimistic and excited about it just because I would just want to see a story like this, and now I'm super excited about it.
Yeah.
Super excited.
I'm yeah.
Getting closer and closer to thinking about doing a podcast about the show when it comes out, but I don't want to commit to that yet. A weekly thing because shit happens, But
what would you call it?
Oh, I don't know.
Send in your thoughts.
Yeah. I think we mentioned this last time. I mean, if there's anything that we talk about on here that we're going to watch and you would love to hear a podcast about it, and you would definitely listen to it and share it with your friends and rate it high ratings on iTunes and all that, then send us an email at geeklydose@gmail.com, because obviously if we get enough people wanting it, then that'll give us more reason to do it. And
heck yeah.
It's all about motivation, inspiration, and support. So if you can give us those three, hey, there's no limit to what we can do here at the APN, right?
Word booty.
So, okay, we're going to move along. I mean, short answer, we're excited about Gotham. Stay tuned for more information on that as it develops, right?
Yep.
Okay, now we're going to switch over to something that's, doesn't happen too often for us. At least not in a while, yeah. We got an email. And
oh, preparation.
well, I mean, I have it, but my screen will go black or something, then I'll have to, But yeah, we got an email. We mentioned this earlier. Jack, Joe, Jack, whatever you call yourself. You don't have to hide yourself from us, man. We're friends. We're not. But I will say this: we definitely appreciate your email. Feel free to email us at any point in time. We don't get a ton of these, so when we do, we will definitely read them on air and talk about it.
Jeez, I don't remember who sent it.
That's the wrong.
Wait, where am I?
I think you're logged into the wrong.
Speaking of
I
preparation,
thought you had it. That's why I was counting on it.
All right, I'll pull it up, but you pull it up as a backup.
Okay.
Let's see. So yeah, we're gonna talk about. I'm gonna read your email here. Once again, if you want to email us, feel free. geeklydose@gmail.com. Just send them in whenever you get a chance, and then we don't have a set schedule for the podcast, but whenever we do record again, then we will address your email. Oops.
I don't remember the password of this crap.
It's Geekly Dose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, geekly.dose@gmail.
I have so many.
What are we doing here? Where are we? What's
I know
happening?
it's been a while. We're still recovering from our hiatus, and we're all getting back into the groove of things.
Yeah, that was it.
But okay, this is what he's listed as Jack, Joe, Jack, and Joe Mac. All three of you guys, this is for you. This is your email. As soon as I scroll down, okay. Jack Joe writes, "Hey guys, do you think they'll ever give us a trilogy of live-action MK films? I enjoyed, parentheses, I enjoyed the first two films, and I would really like to see 3 more done. It's taken this long to just give us a freaking third film, and I want 3 more to come out, laugh out loud." Joe, Jack, Mac, Chris, thank you so much for your email. And you know what? I think the easiest answer to this question is maybe. Because here's from what I understand, here's what has been going on with Mortal Kombat and the properties in terms of film and everything else. There is a live action web series which you're already aware of because you watched that, and there was at one point in time there was some discussion that the creator, the guy who's directing that web series, was going to spin off and do a film, that they were going to let him actually go and direct a full-length live-action Mortal Kombat film. But that changed because that, for some reason, his name's Kevin Tancharoen. I can't pronounce his last name, sorry. But Tancharoen, I think. He's
right.
married to Joss Whedon's brother's wife or something like that.
Wait. He's married to Joss Whedon's brother's wife?
Okay, that didn't come out right at all.
No?
Sorry, no.
That would make him Jed Whedon.
He's Joss Whedon's brother.
Jed Whedon.
Joss Whedon's brother's wife. That's her brother.
Okay, yeah.
Marissa Tancharoen.
Yeah, because she's on. Her and Jed are actually writing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes, that's his sister.
Yeah.
Okay, so there we go.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had that all messed up. But yes, so what's going on now is that there's no. You're asking if we think it's going to happen, so that's what I'm going to tell you, because the actual details on it are just very obscure right now, and there's a possibility, but it's not. Right now, I'm going to say that I don't think it's going to happen.
I would like to see it happen.
I would.
Because I'm with Joe on this one. I remember the night that it came out,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're listening from Baton Rouge, going to Oak Cinema standing in line and going, because Oak Cinema was the new theater at the time,
Mhm.
and going to watch this movie. And I remember when that music hit, Mortal Kombat, we were all ready to play fight in the aisles. And I mean, it was awesome. It was great. And so they did a great job with that. 2, I felt like was fairly decent.
Wait, what?
All right. Okay.
I said fairly decent.
The second one?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
The
See,
second one. The third one was.
there wasn't a third one.
Yeah, there wasn't a third
There
one.
was.
There was just 2 Mortal Kombat films.
Yeah.
What am I thinking of?
I don't know.
Where am I? The brain is out today.
Yeah, but Joe, you also mentioned that you enjoyed the first 2 films, and wow,
There were
how
some
anyone
things
could
that
enjoy the second one is just beyond me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they just completely went straight to hell with that film.
Yeah.
I mean, from start to finish. The first one I love.
Yeah.
I still love
yeah.
it now. You know, the second one not so much. And you know something, Joe, Jack, that
3.6 on IMDb.
yeah, that
Fairly decent.
That explains it all.
Which means probably on Rotten Tomatoes it's even worse.
And to be honest with you, Joe, I think that plays a huge role in the fact that that's why we still haven't seen any more films, because the second one did so poorly.
Right.
It was such a terrible film that no one wants to go and invest money and take a huge financial risk like that and put money into a third installment from that. And I wouldn't be surprised if all these years later they're still hesitant about it, because when's the last time Mortal Kombat has just been like this really huge property? Now, okay, you know, they came out with a new game like last year, the year before, and they went back to the originals, and that's the most exciting thing we've gotten from Mortal Kombat in years, because honestly, that web series is not even that great to me. It started off really good, but then it just got progressively worse. So as long as you have a property like that that is very iffy and risky and kind of wishy-washy, and you can't predict how it's going to do, don't expect any sort of production company to come in and be like, okay, yeah, we'll put $100 million behind this film. You know, it's not going to happen. And so unless there's some kind of a huge resurgence of Mortal Kombat, and I think for a brief moment they thought that web series was going to be that, but now I think they're starting to second guess that, because even that web series is just, like I said, it's not that great. You know, when he first came out with the idea for that web series with the Rebirth, where they took all the characters and made them more realistic, people lost their minds over that, but that was the best idea for this franchise, because that would have reinvigorated it and given it new life and a new direction, a new purpose, and some company would have come along and wanted to take a chance on that. But they're not going to take a chance on this. And we're watching a clip right now from Mortal Kombat Annihilation, okay? And like, this shit is just completely cheesy as hell.
Yeah.
And truth be told, you know, to do it accurately, it kind of has to be, because this movie was accurate. There's no debating that. You know, the characters look just the way they looked in the game and all that stuff, but now we live in a different world. You know, you have to be able to make things a little bit more grounded and reboot them now so that they're modernized. And I honestly cannot realistically see any company saying we're going to take a chance on a Mortal Kombat film right now. I just don't see why they would even feel like it. So my opinion is that we're not going to see it anytime soon.
No, not unless, you know, I don't know. I think Christopher Lambert has to come back as Raiden, though. That's the only way it'll work.
I would see that.
Dude, Christopher Lambert as Raiden was...
Yeah, Lambert?
No, he's French. It's Lambert.
No, yeah, it's Lambert, yeah.
But he was awesome as Raiden. He kind of helped make the movie for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the way he just kind of had these one-offs.
I mean, that movie had a really good cast. I mean, it
did. It really did.
You know, even like Robin Shu
Mm-hmm.
played Liu Kang. I mean, that guy's like, he's still like the quintessential Liu Kang to me. I think about Liu Kang, I think about him.
There was, if I'm not mistaken, there was a Mortal Kombat television series for a little while.
There was. It was called.
That's what I was
Conquest.
thinking of when I was trying to say the third one.
Yeah.
But
it was called Mortal Kombat Conquest, and it revolved around Kung Lao.
Right.
Yeah, in the Shaolin Temple and.
Right. That actually was really good. That was fairly decent as well.
I do remember that being pretty good. I do recall that being pretty good show.
For some reason, they couldn't pick it up and
make it. Just Mortal Kombat is just that property that it's so hard to adapt to live action and have people stick with it, because it gets so outlandish at times.
Yeah.
So you have to do it right. And no one has done it right. So until someone gets a really good idea, I don't expect to see it, you know.
And they didn't bring back the original Johnny Cage from the first one either. He was so much better.
Well, he wasn't in the second one. He died at the very beginning.
Well, yeah, we're watching part of the very beginning, or we were. And it
Oh,
was
yeah, it's
showing
just
where
a bunch
he
of-
died.
yeah, even for that
But it
brief
was-
second when he died, it wasn't the same guy, huh?
No.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It's
And
a
he
different
just-
Sonya Blade, too.
Yeah.
So, like,
Didn't
and then
care
that didn't
for that
help.
Sonya.
Yeah, that didn't help. You,
Didn't
you
care for
start
that
replacing characters, and they're not the same people, you know. It sucks. And Jax was cheesy as hell, man. Look at him.
Yeah.
I mean, just look
They
at
tried.
him.
They really did.
They did try, but, you know, they failed, and who's going to risk that now?
Yeah. Slow motion glass break, everybody
Yeah.
falls.
I mean, they tried to include every single Mortal Kombat character in this film, and that was just
Right.
dumb. I mean, like, it's like Cyrex, Sector, Nightwolf, both Sub-Zeros, I think. Like, I mean, there's just too much stuff going on. Melina, Kitana, like, you can't have all these characters in this one film and have it make sense.
Yeah.
All right, enough about that, because now
Yes.
I'm getting heated.
Yes.
This movie's making me
But
mad
in-
just looking at it.
If they could
Look,
do
even
it,
him.
oh my God, he was the worst.
They brought Motaro and Melina and Shao Kahn and just everyone. Ermac, Rain. I mean, they took every character and put them in this one film.
It was way too much.
Way too much.
Way too much.
Even Shiva's in there. You see
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like,
And
come on.
Shiva was cheesy as shit.
They're like, everybody's gonna love seeing all the characters in here.
You think
If
they
it
would have
was
learned from
done
Street Fighter?
right-
You think they would have
Yeah,
learned from the original
yeah.
Street Fighter film that you can't take all of these characters and put them in a movie and put them in their freaking outfits from the game and expect that to make a good movie?
Especially and just put them in there for one brief moment, long enough for them to do their one big special move, and then that's it.
Right.
Because that's pretty much what it amounted to, especially with Nightwolf. You know,
Yeah, he was
All
there
of a
just
sudden-
long enough to do something
Yeah,
Native
all of-
American stereotype, and then he was out.
yeah. All of a sudden, Liu Kang's on a vision quest. Like,
Right.
What?
See,
No.
and that's the problem with including all these extra characters. All right, okay.
Enough about that.
Joe Mac, thank you for your email. Email us anytime at geeklydose@gmail.com. Anyone else out there, any thoughts on any of this? Of course, send us an email. Said that 19 times already. geeklydose@gmail.com for 20. Okay, so now we're going to go into our newest segment, a little segment we call Trailer Overdose. At some point, I'm going to figure out some kind of cool way to say that.
I got nothing.
We're
I
gonna-
can't help
We're
you.
going to do something. But yes, just a reminder, Trailer Overdose is we're going to take a trailer and we're going to watch it. We're going to break it down. We're going to tear it apart. We're going to dissect it. If you want to watch it with us, this episode's Trailer Overdose is going to be X-Men Days of Future Past, the official full-length trailer, the most recent one to come out just last month. We're going to take it through and give our thoughts and opinions on it and tell you what we like about it, what we hate about it, if anything, etc. So once again, if you're watching this live right now, you want to pull it up in another window, go ahead, take a moment, cue it up. We're about to start in a minute.
Okay, good.
Yes. Okay. This episode of this segment, Trailer Overdose. Let's get it going.
Professor, you're gonna find this hard to believe.
I was sent here for you.
From the future.
All right. So, immediately, I feel like there's so many things we already know about this film, but at the same time, there's a lot of things we don't know. Like, for example, the first thing we see there pretty much is, Hank McCoy and Professor X, and it seems like they're on their way to the danger room or something, which is weird because that shouldn't exist. So obviously there's going to be some kind of a lot of time travel. That's the whole point of this film, right? But most importantly, we get shots like right now we're looking at is Professor X is walking. Okay, so if you saw First Class, he gets shot in the spine at the end of that movie and he's
Right.
paralyzed. So, but there is an explanation for that, and they did explain that too. But I'll get into that in a minute. You also notice that Hank McCoy does not have blue fur in that shot, right? So immediately you start to think, well, something weird is going on here. Professor X is walking. Beast doesn't have fur. And from what I understand is what's going on, because they actually released a tiny. Did you see the tiny clip they released from the film that kind of explained that?
The one that showed up at the credits.
No, not that.
Oh.
Not that. No, this is actually like a, it's just from the. It's not like a promo type thing. It's just like a clip.
I don't know that I did.
Okay. Well, it's basically it's Charles. He's having a conversation with. I think he's talking to Magneto, and he kind of you kind of learn how he's able to walk. So there's something that's going to happen in this film that allows him to make a choice, right? He can choose to give up his mutant ability and walk, or just not be able to walk. So at some point in this film, he's going to give up his powers, and that's how he's going to be able to walk again. Now, we don't know how that's going to happen. We don't know if another mutant's going to come in and do something and whatever. So I think that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it's kind of cool because you know what's going to happen. He's going to have to make a decision and say, wow, the use of my legs pale in comparison to the greater good. I need my abilities back. So that's going to show, I think at that moment, he's going to become Professor X. Because he's still not Professor X here. He's like a drunk. I mean, he's in a bathrobe. He's clearly like he's in some kind of depressive state. So we still need to see that actual transition to Professor X, and I think that's what's going to trigger that.
Let's keep going.
Give me that one more time, please.
Stay with me. In the beginning, the Sentinels were just targeting mutants. Then they began targeting everyone. I've come a long way to guide us, to bring us together.
So obviously we have Storm back. We have Shadowcat, and we've now seen crap.
Who? What does she look like? What?
No, silver skin. Crap, Russian.
Oh, Colossus.
Colossus, thank you. Jeez Louise.
He's right up there.
I know. Oh my God, I'm an idiot.
Up there, we're pointing to Jesse's shelf in the studio. He's got a massive Colossus action figure up there.
Which is like right in my line of sight if I turn to the left. The blonde is running strong today.
There's a tiny one next to him, too.
It's a lot to remember.
To the left of him, there's a tiny
one. Yep, there sure is.
Yeah, there's a couple of them up there.
But yeah, you were saying like
but we see
all these
Colossus
people back from the other films, basically.
Right.
Well, not all of them.
Not sure who that is right there in that shot behind Professor X and Magneto.
That is Blink, which is a mutant I'm very unfamiliar with, but I know that actress is playing Blink.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I'm sorry. What were you saying?
No, that's it. Just saying who all we're saying, who's back, who's not.
Yeah.
I did catch an interview with a write-up with James Marsden, well, now they're rewriting everything. That means Jean, in theory, is still alive. Scott Summers is still alive. Are you coming back? Do you want to come back? He's like, yeah, I'll come back. Tell him to give me a call.
I mean, did someone say that they're still alive? I mean,
no, but if you think it
depends on what they change
in the future.
In the film.
In the future, obviously they're dead. Wolverine's going back to the 70s. Scott Summers, in theory, and Jean Grey would both be kids, which means they're still alive. And if they're changing the entire timeline throughout the verse,
optimistically,
it makes sense that they would still be alive and they have the potential to come back into future movies, even though we know they're not going to be in this one specifically.
Well, do we?
To our knowledge.
I don't know that. Yeah, to our knowledge.
To our knowledge. Marsden did not allude anything in that interview saying, yeah, I'm in there. I'm in there. But I mean, so really the only one that we see of the team really is Rogue at this point.
And we're still getting a little bit of her too.
There's not a whole lot of her in that.
We were just talking about, having people show up for the sake of whatever, like in Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Hopefully that's not what these people are doing. Like, Storm's here because we just need her to change to make it snow for a scene and then she just dies or something. Because we know they're not going to be in the majority of the movie. This is the future.
Right.
The majority of the movie is obviously going to take place in the past because that's where the Sentinels are, the birth of the Sentinels, and that's where that first class team is at. So, they're still just supporting characters in this thing. But it's cool to see them, We're in the future. Yeah, we're in the future, and Storm has yet another hairstyle that I don't like. But, that's all right.
Yeah.
We've got... I drew a blank. Sorry. What's... Ian McKellen. Wow.
Ian McKellen. There we go.
Oh, my goodness. See, now I'm starting to feel it.
Sorry.
Maybe
we should have had some protein bars or something before we started this.
That was a weird, we're going to have to, cut that silence out of there.
Right.
Timestamp.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got him.
Knows we don't cut anything in here.
Okay, but yeah.
Y'all are at an hour and a half right now. So much for that shorter show, huh?
Yeah. Well, luckily this is our second to last thing.
Okay.
We can go ahead and resume.
Yeah.
Alrighty then.
We need your help.
Tell whoever it was that sent you. I'm busy.
The person who sent me was you.
It's going to take all of us to end this war.
Okay. So in just those couple seconds, we got some shots of all the brand new mutants. We had Bishop in there, Blink, Warpath, whoever else. I think those are the main 3 new, unless I'm forgetting someone.
I can't think of anybody.
Yeah.
I was hoping they'd bring Psylocke in, but
yeah,
I always like Psylocke. But
that's true. I mean, there are those great characters like Psylocke and Gambit that just got the shaft.
Yeah. I mean, Gambit got a little bit of a nod in Wolverine, the original Wolverine movie, but I don't know.
And now, rest assured that they're going to pretend like that movie didn't happen, which they should do because it sucked. Yeah. So.
Right.
Yeah, but at least we got some. It's cool that in this Days of Future Past storyline, we're getting both Kitty Pryde and Bishop, because if you follow this, you know that that's 2 different stories. In the 90s cartoon, Bishop was the one who went back in time to warn them of everything.
Right.
And in the comic, it was Kate Pryde who did it. In the movie, it's Wolverine, but all 3 of them are still involved, which is good.
And from what I understand, because they were all, not all of them, but Ellen Page, Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, and James McAvoy, they were all on Good Morning America this morning talking about it. Kitty Pryde's still going to play a pretty big role.
Yeah.
Come to find out, Robin Roberts is a huge X-Men fan. Who knew? But so she knows, the mythos and whatnot. And so, without giving away too much, she was very much, yes, it's you, but you're still heavily involved, just in a very different way.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a cool thing,
From what I understand, they're gonna use her abilities to somehow
fix things,
send Wolverine back to his previous self.
Gotcha.
And as a matter of fact, there's that iconic scene from the Days of Future Past comic where I think it's Rachel Summers in the comic that's doing it, but she's standing over Kitty Pryde with her hands over her head, helping her with that process. Where in this film, Kitty's doing that to Wolverine.
Gotcha.
So there's still it's like you're just saying, Kitty still plays a huge part in that, which I think is awesome.
Right.
So, yeah.
You're beast?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Pretty strong for a scrawny kid.
I said you need to leave.
You and I are going to be good friends. You just don't know it yet.
We're going to need Mystique.
Why?
You're cold-hearted.
Well, I mean, this isn't a big deal, but, just throwing it back to the past again, we just saw Hank McCoy and Wolverine walking into what looked like Cerebro, right?
Right.
That was a big-ass Cerebro for the 70s. Now, I'm just saying, it just makes me wonder what's going on, because I don't know how much time has passed, basically. That is the question in this film.
And we saw Cerebro in First Class, but in a very different...
Yeah, it was behind a dorm or something. It was this small...
Yeah, it was outside.
It's the very first version of Cerebro.
Right.
And now we're pretty much seeing the big X-Mansion version of it, even in the 70s. So it's going to be super interesting to see how they play with time in this film.
Right.
And hopefully it doesn't confuse the shit out of all of us.
Right.
Because time travel can do that.
And of course we have Jennifer Lawrence.
We do.
Coming back as Mystique.
Open ass as Mystique.
Yep.
That's a nice shot of her butt there.
I was gonna say, I was
I'm sure
should I
the
really?
stunt double's butt.
I was like, should I really mention that's a very interesting place that we've stopped this? All he needs to do is move his head to the left just a little bit.
Okay.
Well, don't hold back.
Where's Magneto?
That man is a monster. He's
My
being
question
held
is this. At what point is Mystique going to learn how to fight? Right? Because she's like a
Sure.
badass fighter, right?
Right.
So, you know what I mean? Like, are we going
Yeah.
to find out how she learned how to fight? Because, I mean, she didn't just know that. That wasn't a part of her ability.
Yeah.
You know?
It's not like, she just neos it and just
Right.
absorbs it and knows.
So it's like, are they just going to skip and be like, oh, well, some stuff happened, and now she's this amazing, like, assassin.
right.
Because she was very much not that at the end of First Class.
Yeah.
But that was just a small little nitpick.
Yeah. And how Magneto ends up in jail underneath the Pentagon.
You know what? I think they already said that. Like, remember when they first announced this movie, they started doing like viral marketing, and they were talking about like, there's this belief that Magneto was actually responsible for JFK being assassinated because someone shot a bullet and he uses powers, and like that's how JFK got killed. So they probably brought him. Yeah, they probably brought him into custody, and that's what's going on here. I'm assuming because there was some kind of viral marketing about that, if I'm not mistaken.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's beneath the most heavily guarded building on the planet.
I know a guy. He'll be a young man now.
He's fascinating.
He's a pain in the ass.
Prison break? That's illegal, you know.
Only if you get caught.
We have to talk about Quicksilver because he's just been like the biggest complaint of all of the promotional material for this film. But seeing it in action looks awesome. I mean,
But
he
how
still
are
looks
they,
weird. But yeah,
how
I think
are
he's going to
they
be
going
cool.
to
Though.
explain it? Because he is
Right.
Magneto's son.
Well,
How are they gonna?
yeah, that's the question. I mean, he just won't be his son. They may make him related to him somehow though.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Because it's going to be interesting to see what role he plays in this film, and they're obviously going to get him to try to break out Magneto. But it's got to be bigger than that, because I mean, why Quicksilver? Why choose that character? Why choose Magneto's son in the comics to be the one to do this if he's not going to be Magneto's son in the movie? They could have gotten some other speedster. He's not the only one.
Mm-hmm.
Because, well, yeah, and if because they can't really do the son thing, because realistically, I mean, it's heard of in our day and age. Thank you, Teen Mom. But, realistically, within the 70s, he would be about, what, 30? 35?
Magneto, yeah.
40?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But his son, I mean, he looks to be about 18.
Mm-hmm.
College fling.
He was in college real early. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's totally possible that they'll still find a way to make him Magneto's son, like somehow through time travel or something. But we clearly see him living in the 70s, so I don't know.
It's just all kind of odd.
Yeah, they may just make him a distant relative or something like that.
They may not even address it at all. He might just
not.
be, hey, I'm really fast, and I just happen to have the same name as the comic book son.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally possible. But, Quicksilver, yeah, he looks weird, but I rest assured that those goggles and all that stuff that he's wearing is going to play some kind of a practical
Well, it's because he's running
function.
so fast.
The goggles I can kind of understand. Whatever this behind-the-head headphones thing is, when they didn't even really have headphones that much in the 70s, if at all. Especially not in that type of format.
Right, and see, that's why I'm thinking that this
like, what the heck is that?
That Quicksilver may still be tied to the future somehow in some way that we're not aware of. So
that's possible. But why go back to the
70s? Maybe Beast makes those for him or something.
Maybe.
We don't know, but okay. Proceed.
Charles. Good to see you too, old friend.
This is gonna be fun.
A lot of random punching.
There is a new enemy out there.
Okay.
I really like that shot of Trask.
What bothers me is that that's like the only time they show him in the trailer. It's like,
But I find it
His
interesting.
role is bigger than that.
Yeah, but I find it interesting that they shoot him from behind and you can visibly see that his feet don't touch the floor.
Yeah, that is interesting.
I don't
choice of a shot. Yeah.
because I mean they've got to. I would think that they would play with that fact that Peter Dinklage is a little person.
I think they will.
You know.
I think that's I think his character is going to somehow use that to rationalize being the underdog and needing protection from the mutants, and this is how we're going to overcompensate for that by making these giant sentinels.
Sentinels, right? And then Little Man Complex want to be in power because, but I mean, Trask had that anyway to an extent. There was very much a desire for power within the Trask personage, whatever.
Totally. But it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
You'll need a new weapon for this war.
Everything that happens now is in your hands.
Okay. Yeah, we just saw a lot of stuff really in a short amount of time there. But I think what I want to address is, well, for one thing, we get more looks at Bishop. Wolverine has bone claws. It's, even my memory on the whole timeline thing is getting really messed up because at the end of the Wolverine, he did lose the adamantium, right? Or am I not remembering that correct? Okay. So that would explain why he has bone claws if that's the same Wolverine. So does that lead us to believe that he never got adamantium again between that time and the future?
Right.
But at some point he's gonna have adamantium claws in this film. They can't have a whole movie with Wolverine with bone claws. I mean, how lame is that to look at?
I think he'll have it the whole time. It was such
I hope not.
It was such a big ordeal for him to get the adamantium. There's no way he's going to get it again. I mean, I don't think so.
Well, I don't know.
It would be interesting. I mean, unless
but something
timeline-wise, this takes place prior to the adamantium infusion. But that would almost throw it back to the original, the X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Right.
So...
Which they're going to pretend like that didn't happen for the most part. So then it becomes
so
this
then
weird...
why, if the experiment hasn't happened yet where it's fused, then why it's all very...
See?
I'm so confused.
Unless they bring in the other Wolverine, like the one that's alive then. So there's two Wolverines.
Right.
Because he doesn't age, for the most part.
But even the future one shouldn't have adamantium if we count what happened in the Wolverine, So
but are they ignoring that one as well?
When?
Yeah. I thought it would have been before the 70s.
See, that's the question.
If you go by X-Men Origins Wolverine, I mean, it looks to be a more modern time frame.
Yeah, it doesn't look like
it doesn't look like 70s.
It's not quite as aged as First Class.
Right. But the funny thing is that a lot of they had Scott Summers in there at the very end, and he was younger.
Oh, yeah, that stuff's all.
So it's all kind of
That's
really
why I don't think they're going to address that film.
Right, but then but you're saying that he lost the adamantium. You're talking about in the Wolverine that took place in
the most Japan.
China, Japan. I can't remember which one.
It's Japan.
So
Wolverine.
Yeah, so I mean that looked like it could have happened yesterday. I mean, as far as timeline wise,
but that was supposed to take place in the future though. That movie took place after X-Men: The Last Stand, timeline wise.
And the Wolverine that's going back in time is that Wolverine.
Yes.
But did we see him earlier in the future shots with adamantium claws? That's the question.
I think in all those future shots, he doesn't even have his claws out.
That's what I'm thinking as well.
So it's like, who knows,
Which makes me really question that one shot where he's back in the 70s and he's checking out bone claws.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, look, in this version, in this point in the timeline, I don't have adamantium claws yet.
Yeah, I'm just hoping they don't confuse the hell out of us even more with this film.
Yeah, very much so.
Let's proceed.
And I find it interesting that we finally get a first full shot of the Sentinels. The look of the Sentinels is very modern for what I think 1970s would have been. So I find
that is a very good
interesting.
point, because when those shots were first released, my reaction was, well, they look weird. But I'm thinking about the future iteration of them, you know, and if that was a new prototype of Sentinels in the 70s, then they would be kind of like shiny and kind of plastic looking, and you know, they may not be made out of.
No, what I'm saying is they look too modern. They look more now versus what I thought they should look for.
Oh, you think
they
they should even be a little more primitive?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll see like them evolve, you know.
Yeah.
Because we do see that Super Sentinel in the future, so maybe
Nimrod.
we even see. You think it's Nimrod?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll get to see the very first iteration of them too. You know, that
Right.
Cool.
That could be a more developed form.
Yeah.
You know, that they're
could be like
revealing
the Mark
there.
IV or something.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
Just a brief clip here. Can we just say Iceman, Ice Slide? That's all I want to say
Finally.
about it. That is all I want to say. I am looking forward to seeing that.
Sure. And then I believe we did just see Professor X back in the wheelchair.
Yep. So we do know that he's going to end up back in that at some. Well, we don't know, but I mean, obviously, you know,
For some reason, he is back. He is in a wheelchair.
He's going
right
to make
there.
that decision.
You can catch the handle.
Yeah, he's going to make that choice at some point. But we also get Magneto lifting an entire stadium.
Which is crazy.
Right? You think him lifting that bridge in The Last Stand was something.
Right?
Yeah, no, that's cool, though. It'll be cool to see how powers have evolved and how much stronger people have gotten. You know, because he had a hard time with that submarine in First Class.
Right.
You know? But yeah, okay.
In the future.
Do I make it?
No.
Now that's just funny.
You think so?
Yeah. I think it's just
I was just about to talk about how stupid I thought that was.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I like stupid humor. I think stupid humor's fun. So.
Oh, wait a second. Go to the end of that again, because there was a promo shot in Wolverine Future had claws out, and I think they were adamantium. Look,
Are we destined?
those are adamantium claws, right?
Good point.
And that's within
That's
future
Wolverine.
costuming. Yeah.
So,
He's gonna have to either voluntarily go through the process again or something like that.
and that just kind of goes back to my main concern about this film is that kind of stuff. And they're
It's
gonna
gonna-
have to find a way to explain all these little things,
Right.
you know, without confusing us even more.
See, he fights the Sentinel with his bone claws. It's probably at that point he's gonna get his ass kicked or something like that, and they can be like, "I need my
My
metal back."
adamantium.
And Magneto
Yeah.
will be like, "All right, I can manipulate adamantium.
It's gonna hurt a
It's
little
going
bit.
to hurt a lot less than it did the first time."
Right.
Because this stands to reason that he still has the adamantium on the rest of his skeleton. It should just be his claws, I think,
Right.
that are bone.
I would have to go back and watch the Wolverine.
Because
again.
otherwise, someone would just like hit him with something, and his ribs would be broken or something. But you know, he's
But
fighting a
he
sentinel.
heals
Clearly,
at the
he's
same
still.
time
Well, that's true. Yeah.
rapidly.
Yeah. But you know, it'll be interesting to see how they explain all these little things. You know, we don't have long to wait. May 23rd.
You think we'll get a fastball special on this one?
Fastball special.
That's where Colossus throws Wolverine
Oh.
at the Sentinel set.
That would be funny if they
awesome.
did that again and kind of threw it back to X2, 3. But then again, do they really want to reference that film?
Well, no, it's
But
from the
they
comic.
are. Oh, is
The
that
fastball
what, okay.
special,
Well,
yeah.
okay,
That's
so
an
when
old
they
one.
did that in the movie, they were just referencing the comic. Oh,
In
cool.
fact, they did it in the Days of Future Past comic.
Oh, nice.
I think that's where they introduced it. Say, this is called the fastball special. There was Wolverine.
Cool. But yeah, you know, not much to say about that because we didn't get too much new in there. You know, like when we did Turtles, it was kind of like, wow, this is our first time seeing this. A lot more stuff to say. But we've been around this X-Men block I don't know, 5-6 times now. Hopefully this will be the best turn around that block. Right?
I hope so. I have very high hopes for it. I mean, of all comic books, X-Men was kind of always my favorite.
Mm-hmm. Growing up, mine too.
Because we all kind of grew up feeling kind of awkward and whatnot, and I've heard Stan Lee talk about this, and he's like, it's really, this was every teenager. We all had something that made us unique and special, but at times it could make us feel awkward. So I think that's why a lot of people really love the X-Men franchise as a whole, whether it be comic books, cartoons, movies, video games. And so it'll be nice to see what happens.
Yeah.
You
hear that, 20th Century Fox? It means a lot to us that you fixed this franchise.
Yes.
So hopefully with this film you'll do it, and then it'll be smooth sailing. We'll get X-Men Apocalypse and X-Force and X-Factor, and we can get all of them in there.
Yeah. Do it.
But anyway, that was this episode's trailer overdose. I don't know, that was random, and I didn't think it through before I did it. But whatever. Trailer overdose for this week. Please email us your thoughts, geeklydose@gmail.com. If there's a new trailer that is coming out for something geeky that you would like for us to feature in that segment on the next episode, we're open to suggestions for that. So once again, geeklydose@gmail.com if you want to do that. Now, we're going to transition over to the main event, which we are not going to let the conversation go on for too long.
No.
We're going to make
145 right
Yes. We're going to make okay, so that means you guys are probably going to get a little shorter review than you would have expected or wanted for this, but at the same time, we all have lives we have to continue on with. So yes, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Usually when I review a film or something like that, there's usually some story about, I usually have some kind of interesting story that kind of built up to it. The going see the film, I don't think there was anything. I mean, I went to see it by myself, which happens sometimes because it was like a Sunday or something, and I was like, you know what, I'm free right now. I don't feel like trying to call anyone else. See, I knew you had already seen it by that point,
right?
And I was like, I'm just going to go see it by myself. So I did. I went to see it in IMAX 3D because I had seen the first film. We were talking about this earlier. I saw the first film in IMAX 3D, so I felt like I'd be making a pretty good decision to see it again in 3D, and I feel like it was. You saw it in 3D, right?
We had purchased our tickets for 3D, and we stopped to get lunch, and lunch took just way too long, and the AMC theater was nice enough to trade them out for regular 2D tickets, which was the next showing. Okay. So I actually saw it in 2D. I don't feel like, thinking back on it, there's nothing really that stuck out to me that went, wow, this would have been awesome in 3D.
The only things that I would say, and we're not getting into spoilers just yet, so don't worry if you're just looking to hear our general thoughts. That's what we're giving now. And this isn't a spoiler by any means, but obviously, when Spider-Man's just like swinging through the city and stuff.
Yeah,
that's the main kinds of things. And when he's fighting Electro, and they show some of that stuff in the trailer. That stuff looks good in 3D, but of course then you get a lot of the stuff between he and Gwen and he and Harry, and none of that stuff looks, it's just people talking. So you don't get your money's worth in terms of 3D for that. And there was a lot of that stuff in the film. So I feel like this would be a good time for me to just say this, is that not too pleased with The Amazing Spider-Man 2 overall. I didn't dislike it, but it was very mediocre in my opinion.
Yeah, and I had a friend who saw it before I did, and I saw his minor review before I went, and I didn't let it affect me too much, but I understand what he was calling it, The Amazing Notebook 2, because of all of the...
I totally get why he would say that.
Right, and so I was kind of like, really? So I was like, all right, but, I'm going to see it anyway, so... I get why, because there's very much a focus on Gwen and Peter, and there kind of has to be if you're, because there were a lot of nods to the comic book.
Oh, of course.
And so Especially, never mind. So you know where I was going with that. So, but I guess to actually get to the next point that they want to be at, because of where the comic book goes, because of that storyline that they're trying to bring into it, you know, you almost kind of had to do the build-up letdown. Yeah. You know, and do the whole, I love you, I love you too. Yeah, we can't be together. I have to keep you safe. Oh, but I don't want. Yeah. You know, which is everything with any type of, you know, superhero romance.
Right, and the thing is that I'm usually a defender of that kind of stuff. When people kind of single that stuff out in the films, I'm like, well, there's nothing new about that. I'm like, the heroes always have a love interest, even in the comics.
And they always find out. Deal.
But even I felt like it was overkill.
It seemed to drag.
And you're right. There is a reason, I think, why that was done, and we'll get into that later. But it just the movie felt very disjointed to me. I felt like we were at one moment we were in this one scene, and the next one was in this other scene that was not even the same tone as the previous scene.
Right.
And this was, man, for all the stuff that they talked about in the first Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man,
right,
as far as it being darker and more grounded and stuff, and I feel like they kind of did that. But with this film, it was like, I feel like I was watching a cartoon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was, to me, it was that over the top. I mean, Electro and that music that would come on every time Max Dillon would. I was like, this music is so weird, and I don't.
But Jamie Foxx did. I think Jamie Foxx did a good job of playing him. But I agree with you. As dark as they tried to make the first Amazing Spider-Man, I don't feel like this one was that dark.
I feel like they just threw all that stuff out the window and said, you know what, we got them, we want them now. Now we can just go full out comic book.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work. It just didn't work for me. It didn't work. I mean, and I'm not gonna get into spoilers, but
this is my personal opinion on it. Definitely go see it.
Oh yeah, I would say that.
If you're not super into the 3D IMAX 3D, don't waste your money on it.
Yeah, you don't have to see it.
There's nothing, in my opinion, that stood out that made me say, damn, I wish we would have gotten 3D.
Yeah, no.
You know, save a couple bucks, you know, hit a matinee, definitely go see it. It is good.
Yeah,
it is good.
It's not a bad movie.
But, you know.
It's just not. I prefer the first one, and I wasn't even crazy about that one. So that, you know, that's kind of where I stand.
And see, I meant to watch the first one before I went and saw this, and we all kind of threw it together, and you know, with Comic Book Day and everything, and went so fast. I don't know that I've seen the first one all the way through, because we got it once it came out on DVD. We got it for my son, you know, which we've already said, huge geek. But trying to watch it with him and be a mother and a wife and all this other kind of stuff, I've watched bits and pieces, so I haven't gotten the full movie experience on that one. But yeah, I mean, it was good. It was good for what it was, you know, and it's not one that I feel like I gotta go back and see it again. I gotta go back. You know, Captain America Winter Soldier, I definitely could have gone and seen that one again quite easily and happily. This one, I'll wait till it comes out on DVD, and I'll probably even just wait until it comes out on Netflix to see it again. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna buy the Blu-ray when it comes out, probably in 3D, because I have a 3D TV now. So, but that's just because I feel like I just have to own those films. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, eventually we'll probably buy it, and that probably has more to do with my son than anything, you know. But for the most part, you know, if you're not super into it as a fan, check it out on 2D. Go see a matinee. You know, definitely go see it. It is worth the theater experience. Sure. I will say that it's definitely worth the theater experience. But beyond that, you know.
Yeah.
So there you go, without giving anything away.
Yeah, and that pretty much sums it up for me too. So if you're on the fence about Spider-Man, go see it, but don't expect any sort of a magical experience. I mean, especially if you've just seen Captain America or something. You know, I mean, it's just not. It's just such a different film, and it's really, really cartoony. And some people may think that that's great, but I was not a fan of it.
But with the things, especially if you followed the comic book, because I can tell you my husband was geeking out all over the place with the direction. By the time you got to the end of the film, that you could see that where they're going with it, to some extent it made sense. They had to get past all that. But so you can obviously see there's a plan there. There's a path. But you had to get through all that crap to get to it. So it's kind of that middle film. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's usually, like even in the Iron Man films, there's always one that's just kind of, you're left going, which for me was 3.
It's usually the third one,
right?
In these franchises that does that. With Iron Man, for me, it was number 2, and then number 3 was the worst. So like I didn't like Iron Man 2 or 3. I mean, I didn't hate Iron Man 2,
right?
But I hated Iron Man 3. But I really disliked Iron Man 2. So
right,
But with this, I think it suffered from that. Exactly that. It's like, well, now we have to do a shared universe. So because of that, let's put Electro in here, let's put Goblin in here, let's put Rhino in here.
Right.
Which you're not going to get nearly as much Rhino in this film as you may think. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I'll save my thoughts on that.
And that's actually probably
a
good thing, because that would have just added even more time for someone to be not developed properly.
Right.
Just to, they're so busy setting up Sinister Six and all this stuff that like they shoved all this crap in there and it ultimately hurt this film.
I think so too.
Yeah. Okay. On that note, at this point, we're going to switch over to spoilers, okay? So if you have not seen The Amazing Spider-Man or The Amazing Spider-Man 2, you want to stop listening right now, kind of fast forward a little bit to the wrap-up, and we talk about the next episode and everything. Once again, okay, this is your last warning. From this point on, we'll be talking about spoilers for both The Amazing Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2. So you've been warned. Okay, if you're still here, let's talk quickly about about Spider-Man and spoilers and everything. Do we want to jump into the biggest thing of the film immediately? You want to build to that?
Let's build a little bit.
Well, let's just kind of start with let's start from the beginning, right?
Right.
One of the things that it wasn't a problem necessarily, because I think they did it in a way to where it was okay, but they managed to get through the first film without really saying what happened to Peter's parents. Okay?
Right.
In this film, that's like the first 10 minutes of the movie.
Right.
It's them showing that, which I thought was cool.
I thought it was too, because I'll be honest with you. I mean, most tragic death, disappearance of the hero's parents, most of them. Bruce Wayne's parents die in the alley.
Yeah.
Kal-El's, they're trying to save their universe.
Mm-hmm.
Dad gets, has a heart attack and dies, so forth and so on. Talking about Mr. Kent, but I don't know that I've ever heard any story about what actually happened to Peter's parents. Like, all I've ever known is they died. He went to live with Aunt May and Uncle Ben, and then Uncle Ben gets shot.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I've ever really known. And so for them to address that, I thought was really cool. And the way that they did it, I thought was pretty cool too. Yeah. I feel like they could have done more on that than they did some of the other lovey-dovey, notebooky stuff, in my opinion.
Yes. And that just kind of that's a good point, because that opening scene was done so well.
Yeah, it was great.
And that airplane, everything on the airplane looked great. And it kind of established a tone for this film that didn't remain. Like, that tone did not stay.
No.
Like, that tone kind of ended with that scene. And then it became, this movie was a romantic comedy, a drama, an action film. It was just too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can have elements from all those genres, and I feel like the best films do. But when it shifts like that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there were scenes in this film where Peter was like, literally, they were playing. I mean, I swore I was watching Dawson's Creek or something, because it was just like,
right?
It was that kind of music playing, and I was like, why is like this pop alternative rock playing right now during this? You know what I mean?
The
like,
only thing that could have made it any worse would have been like a Nickelback love song. That's all they needed, and then I would have been like,
But it was stuff just like that, you know? And it was like, why is this in the Spider-Man film? Like, I get it. You want he is a teenager. You want to establish this relationship, because what happens later, you want to build up he and Gwen so much that when the other events happen, it hurts.
Right.
And it did.
It did. It absolutely did.
So they were successful at that. But I mean, to get there, we had to sit through all this stuff, and like, let's just get to Electro. So one-dimensional and just not even developed at all.
But Jamie Foxx, I have to admit, he did really good with what he had.
Oh yeah.
There was very much an element of psychosis and well, I don't want to even say borderline psychotic.
Yeah.
He was psychotic. He was obsessive, and he played that very, very well, I felt.
Yeah.
For the the information that he had, the script that he had. But yeah, I'll agree with that. He was kind of one-dimensional. It seemed like he had good intentions and he wanted to do the right thing, but he just took it.
And something
way
that's
too
like
far.
Max Dillon was a much better character than Electro. I mean, because all of a sudden he becomes Electro, and now he's like, all of a sudden he talks like this, and what he really, you know what I mean? Like, what happened to that geeky ass dude? Like, just because he has powers now, all of a sudden he talks differently. He acts differently.
I can understand the talking differently because they want to infuse that electronic synthesis within his speaking voice, but all of a sudden he's just not as awkward. He moves differently.
Right.
It just it didn't really. And I'll be honest with you, I expected Electro to be a much smaller character in this, within this iteration, within this thing, within the movie.
I still felt like he was pretty small. Like,
it seemed like he was more of a main focus than I expected him to be. I really expected to be a lot more on Goblin than it was, and Rhino, it was pretty much about as much as I thought we were going to get of Rhino, just not when I thought we were going to see the suit and everything right off the drop.
Yeah.
So, but it was kind of interesting to see how they did that with him, and it was still good. I thought they did Rhino pretty well. And still leaving everything open the way they did.
And then it becomes clear after seeing that he was the only reason he was in there is to set him up for the next film.
Correct.
Which is just, I mean, why even put him in there at all? It's not like we learned anything about him. We didn't learn shit about him.
Yeah, but it leaves, it helps, in my mind anyway, the continuity with the scene towards the end where they are in Bethlehem, and whomever it is comes in and speaks to Harry, and obviously they're in cahoots, and it helps kind of have some person that you've already established with, okay, we know this person, we know somewhat of their background, they're not a nice person, they're a person more from the mob or whatever, a person of questionable morals and ethics and whatnot. And so it kind of already establishes that. So you're not just having some guy run out in a Rhino suit going...
Well, that's what I'm saying. Had he not been in there at all, that wouldn't have been a problem.
Oh, you mean like not,
I don't think
at all, not just in the beginning.
I don't think he needed to be in the film, period, because he didn't serve a purpose. Like, am I missing something?
Other than to connect it to the next movie.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, to me, that's not a good enough reason,
Yeah,
I feel like they could have just waited until the next movie if they wanted to put him in there.
But I mean, that's the thing. If you're going to take out... God, it's so hard because, I mean, if you take him out completely, then that original scene towards the beginning where Spider-Man shows up and he's going after the guys and they've taken some sort of chemical or whatever and he's driving the truck, he has to have a vendetta against Spider-Man. Spider-Man's the one that locked him up. If you don't do it then you have to explain it in the next one and why he's so after Spider-Man, why he was chosen to be a part of this Sinister Six. He was chosen because he has the vendetta. I mean,
but do you see
could just kind of say it and be done with it, but at the same time...
Because he's a criminal, right? I mean, all these criminals are going to not like Spider-Man. Because
right. He's Spider-Man.
Right, he's Spider-Man. He's trying to stop them. Like, that's not enough of a motivation, I think, to kind of warrant them putting him in the film. And even if they wanted to do that, they could have still just done that in the next film. The next film could have started off with him chasing Rhino or something.
Right.
Because he comes in the beginning, then he gets arrested, and then he comes back at the end. And he does not affect the story at all.
Not really. Other than to have some type of continuity for the next film.
And exactly. And that's my problem with it.
You could have taken him out and still had the scene in Bethlehem Asylum with Harry and whomever this mystery person is in a trench coat.
Mm-hmm.
And let's go ahead and release so-and-so. Let's see what he does. And then just left it right there.
Yeah, I mean, they could have still had that same conversation, take out the stuff about him, because it's not like that adds anything. It's like we already know that Goblin is in, and they can be like, well, we have to find 5 other people or whatever.
Right.
But then they're like, well, we have one, and this guy named whatever.
We found this dude, yeah.
But then who cares? I mean, because then it makes even less sense, because now it's like, why the hell does Oscorp have a Rhino mech suit? Like, why did they make that to begin with?
Right.
Why does it look like a Rhino?
Yeah,
it's just so stupid. I mean,
yeah, it doesn't.
Like, I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
And then Harry, you know something? When I was watching this film, I promise you, I forgot Harry Osborn was even going to be in the movie, because he showed up like 40 minutes in or something. And when they showed him, I was like, oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
Harry Osborn's in the movie, and like that goes to show that they were spending their time exploring other shit when they should have been spending their time developing Harry, instead of saying, oh yeah, he's been in boarding school for the past 10 years, but before that he and Peter were like best friends. So we're just supposed to believe their friendship based on that.
Right.
And based on that one scene of them kind of kidding around together, I'm not going to buy their friendship based on that, right?
Yeah.
So it loses its emotional impact later on when they are fighting each other and all that. It's just, I don't believe that they're best friends. That's one thing those Sam Raimi films got right. You know what I mean? Like, we had like 3 movies, like 2 full movies almost, of Harry Osborn there. So he was already established by the time he became a villain. You know, and it was like he
had more plausible reasons.
Yeah.
Not to say that, and I did kind of like the angle that they played with him becoming Goblin, because there was an autoimmune disorder, you know, curse of the father, blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
That was interesting. I did, you know, and so creating a reason for him to hate Spider-Man because he wouldn't give him his blood, and so that made it for interesting.
What did you think of that though? That reason? How'd you feel? I hated it.
Yeah, I kind of did too. I mean, why couldn't he just go, dude, I know what you're looking at. I know why you're looking at it. It makes sense. I can see your point of view, but my dad put it with his blood. That's the only reason it works for me.
Mm-hmm.
Duh. I mean, why can't you?
Did he know that at that point? I don't remember.
At some point, he knew.
Yeah.
And he could have easily just gone, dude, the only reason this works for me is because of Hereditary.
But then, would he have to have given up his identity to tell him that in some way?
But Harry already knew who he was.
Well, Harry didn't find out.
Harry knew who he was after he asked, and he said no. That's the way it read to me.
Oh, really? Well, I mean, I think I saw it as he literally put it together in that moment where it's Spider-Man, Gwen, and then Goblin comes out of nowhere, and he's in the middle. And he sees Gwen, and he immediately makes the connection. It's like, why is Spider-Man here with Gwen Stacy? Oh, that's right. Gwen Stacy is Peter Parker's girlfriend, and now what Peter told me earlier makes sense, and that's how I know that this is Peter.
That's not how
even
I read
that was
it
a
at
stretch,
all.
though.
I didn't read it like that at all.
So you think he knew before then?
I think when Peter said no because it's too dangerous and then left, that's when I think because he said no, or something. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was in that scene, but there was something in that scene that it was just a slight tell, and Harry knew. He knew that Spider-Man was Peter Parker. They were one and the same, because Harry was kind of already following that type of track. You know him. You've taken pictures of him. You can get in contact with him. You have all these pictures.
Mm-hmm.
He was already starting to put together, if nothing else, you know this person in some form. So when Peter shows up as Spider-Man and he says, "No, dude, I'm sorry. I wish I could, but I can't." When he leaves, Harry knows. And I want to say that there was something within the script that alluded to that during that whole fight with him and Gwen was there and whatnot. There was something that alluded to that fact when he said, "I knew it was you when you said blah blah blah," or there was I want to say there was a line similar to that.
Yeah, no, and I know which line you're talking about, and that's what makes me. I saw it differently than that. I saw it that's when he had a realization, and then and to me that moment just solidified his current assumption that was Spider-Man. Right. If that makes any sense, it's like, okay, you know, I'm putting all these pieces together now that I see you standing in front of Gwen. Now what Peter said earlier makes sense because he's Spider-Man.
Right.
Like, but I definitely saw it as him seeing it in that moment. It was interesting that you thought that you saw it as him finding out earlier. I didn't think about it.
We might have to go back and watch it.
Well, I mean, it could just be one of those things that's really just subjective.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, I mean, it may not be for sure either way, but like I just saw it a different way. Right. Yeah.
And then of course there's the big elephant in the room as far as spoilers, the death of Gwen Stacy.
Right.
Which of course happens in the comic book in this version that they're going with. And then Gwen Stacy later on ends up as Black Cat. So, you know.
And some weird alternate version or something.
I'm trying to. My husband would have all of the info because he started spouting all this out at me as we're walking out of the theater, and I'm going, Yeah. You know, not that I wasn't listening to him, but you know,
I'm sure in
he's
some weird
throwing it
expanded
out all
universe she probably was brought back to life or something.
Yeah, there is a version within all this where she does come back, and so it's going to be interesting to see if they play with that.
I hope not. Especially because you know what they did. They gave Harry an assistant named Felicia. Black Cat's Felicia Hardy, right? But they never said her last name.
Right.
But it's not a coincidence that they gave her that name.
No.
And she was kind of taking Harry's side at the end.
Right.
And actually, another thing about this film is that a lot of the stuff that was shown in the trailers was not in the movie. Okay? So, because in the trailer, there's a shot of Felicia standing in front of that goblin booth. So she knew about Harry in the earlier version of the film.
Right.
So it stands to reason that she could become some kind of a villain like Black Cat because through her association with him, and she may actually be one of the Sinister Six or something like that, you know?
Right.
So I think if anything, they're going to go that route with her. Otherwise, I don't see the point why they would have introduced her and then call her Felicia.
True.
You know?
I thought about that too. I was because I couldn't put my finger on it at that minute in the theater. I was like, wait a minute, there was a Felicia within the universe.
Yeah.
You know, who was pretty significant, and I couldn't put two and two together at that moment. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with it from there. You know, will Gwen haunt Peter?
That's possible.
Similar to the way
Captain
his
Stacy was.
Captain Stacy, right.
I did like that.
That was kind of cool.
Although there was just so much going on in this film. I mean, we've got Harry and his whining. Okay, yes, he's dying, but it's like, would you really go to that kind of an extreme in such a short amount of time? Like they never spent time developing Harry as this dangerous person, and all of a sudden he becomes a villain in like a blink of an eye because Spider-Man doesn't want to give me his blood. Well, I'll go out and I'll just kill innocent people.
But that part. But I mean, once you got him to that point, I mean, his company had been taken from him and everything. I mean, he had nothing to lose.
Which to me would have made a lot more sense if his first stop as Green Goblin would have been to Oscorp to get revenge on the people that kicked him out, instead of going after Spider-Man first, you know.
He did go back once he broke Electro out. He did go back to Oscorp.
Well, I mean, he went in there. They went in there and they but it was just like one guy, wasn't it?
Yeah. But I mean, the way they played that as well. I mean, he seemed to be the main architect behind, kind of. He's to throw it into an Arrow reference. He was the Isabel of the group. So but I don't know.
That whole thing just played out very weird.
It was. Yeah, it's
because he goes in there, he breaks in there.
It very much. You're right.
He's a regular guy. First of all, he just broke into this high tech like facility where they're keeping like super villains. He just kind of breaks in there and gets his way to Electro's chamber, and kind of like lets him out, and then makes this deal with him. But I mean, does that explain? Does he have clearance? At this point, he's been like let go. He doesn't have any clearance. That's why he had to like knock the security guard to get in there, right? So it's just, it just got so ridiculous after a certain point. And I'm sitting there watching this. I'm like, I can't believe this movie's doing all this weird stuff when there is reason to believe, a very good reason to believe, that this film was much better. Yeah. During like the director's cut, and then they had to go in and, because if you look at the stuff that's in the trailer that didn't make it into the film, like for example, there's a scene in the trailer which was in like every trailer. Right. It's Harry saying, he's talking about like, he's telling Peter like, yeah, they're following you, keep an eye on you or something, and Peter's like, why? And he's like, well, isn't that the question of the day? Like, that was in every trailer, but that was not in the film.
Right.
So at some point, there was some indication that someone was following Peter for some reason. Harry knew about it, and they were trying to investigate it together. So that's a whole different plot line that was eliminated from the film.
Yeah.
Because there's no indication of what that would have even led to based on what we've seen in the final version.
I think, and that goes back to, eventually buying the DVD. I think if we do buy it, it would have to be director's cut.
They better. At this point, they need to do that because, like, the film isn't getting great reviews because it's...
Well, the film was like Bohemian Rhapsody. It literally, and that's what I was going to say a second ago, is like, you're right. It jumps from genre to genre to genre in a jack flash second. And to me, that song Bohemian Rhapsody does the same thing, but does it in a much better way.
Yeah.
And it just, it was...
What'd you think of the...
mind-boggling.
When you think of Electro's music when he was in Times Square, and there were the voices, and he's like, you know what I mean? There was the voices and the music. It was a very interesting way to show that, but it was so weird.
This, like, okay, if they would have done more with the voices previous to him becoming Electro.
Like if he were already hearing them or something, right?
Right. I mean, it's like they almost tried to play with that with his birthday. Oh, and he's talking to himself, Spidey, you got a cake for me? I'm your number one fan. I'm your eyes and ears. I'm your partner. Da, 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 da. It's like they almost tried to play with that, and then after becoming Electro, they manifested like full on.
Yeah.
But it just didn't read right as to why he's picking up these random, are they in his head? Is it radio signals, electric signals that he's getting from the cops, walkie-talkies?
That would have been a much more creative way to integrate that.
Yeah. So it's, it was very, it read really weird.
And that's how the whole movie was to me. It's like there's this random stuff that just doesn't even, like, why all of a sudden there's this music coming with like this voice saying, he lied to me or whatever, and all this stuff. It's like, we didn't establish that he heard voices at any point. So now you're just throwing this at us.
Right.
And it doesn't make sense.
It's very much, this is the way, and this just kind of came to me, the movie was a puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
And the puzzle, if you look at it, all the pieces go to that same puzzle, but it was almost like they were trying to force similar pieces next to each other, but they didn't quite fit. Mm-hmm. Like, all of these pieces should be in the top left-hand corner of this puzzle, but you've got them so jacked and out of order that just something doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And so that's just the way it kind of read to me. It's almost like a Monet puzzle. You stand back and it looks really good, but you get really close and you're going, ooh, what? Something doesn't look right here. So
yeah, I don't know, man. Theatrical cut is just a fail. Because,
with this movie. Absolutely.
Yeah, none of this. I mean, I forgot where I was about to go with that point, but we should probably wrap up soon.
Yes.
But I just want to make sure we don't miss anything, because as soon as we leave, I'm going to be like, oh, that's what I wanted to bring up.
Right. And if you guys think of anything, please email us. We'll be happy to talk about it. geeklydose@gmail.com, or you can tweet us at awesomepods. We'll catch it later if you're not watching live, and be happy to readdress it.
Yes, totally.
So yeah.
What did you think of? I mean, let's talk about Aunt May a little bit. I mean, she was.
I love Sally Field.
Yeah, I mean, she's such a great actress. But it just. There were these scenes that would. Okay, it's Peter and May. Mm-hmm. It's Peter and Gwen. It's Peter and Harry, and those. They were just so weirdly dispersed throughout the film, like in between all this over the top stuff that's going on with Electro and Harry, that it just, that's what I mean when I say the film felt disjointed. Like it just didn't seem. Can you tell me what Electro's motivation was in this film? Absolutely not. See, I mean that is the problem with him.
I can try to. I can try to, because there was originally in Max Dillon's mind, at least, there was a bond there created. You know, Peter used just the wrong phraseology when talking to this guy when he saved him, and he latched onto that, and it developed into this psychosis because Max so very much wanted to be seen, and he was so very much an invisible person and overlooked by the world, that he thought by being friends with Spider-Man and being his eyes and ears and being his partner, that, you know, it was the first person really in his life who really saw him, at least in his mind. And so
somehow he managed to convince himself that that was betrayed. And
within that time, somewhere in that Times Square scene, you know, where it went from, you know, he's on every screen and they can see me, to Spider-Man does something good, and so now he's on every screen and they see him, and now nobody sees me, and now I'm invisible again. And so it just, I can see where it was trying to be done, but
it just wasn't executed right.
It was very forced.
There was a lot of potential
stuff
there.
That was very forced in this movie.
But it was like, well, we only have a time limit, and we got to get back to this, and this. So let's just go ahead and make it to where, you know, like, I feel like that was the thought process when they were making this movie.
Yeah. We need to get this, and this in here, and we've only got this amount of time to do it, so let's just shove in as much as we can. And
that is a perfect way of explaining
shake it up and watch how the jacks fall when you dump them out.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. We talked about the main credits thing a little bit, right? It just was basically, it was just... no, there wasn't one. Never mind. That was the end of the film. The mid-credits thing was the Days of Future Past clip that shouldn't have been in there, because it was so out of context
whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, and then if you're gonna put something like that in there, put something that's really impressive. Yeah. Don't just put like Mystique beating some people up. I mean,
we know she's going to do that anyway,
right?
And then she's going to change and look like somebody completely different.
Yeah. So then that just pops up in the middle of the credits, and it's like, and it just goes back to the credits, and like,
okay.
What are you guys thinking with this?
Okay, the Army's involved. Okay, what else?
One more thing before we wrap this up. I don't think I've said anything positive about the film yet. I want to throw out some things I liked about it.
Yeah.
Right. This film does I don't want to say it, but I will. This film does an amazing wink job of showing how amazing Spider-Man is. Yes. Like, he does some cool ass stuff in this movie. I mean, like, he's just doing like the whole thing where Electro sends the shockwave out or whatever, and like he sees, like his Spidey sense, he can see the person about to touch the pole.
Yeah.
And then that was awesome.
It was.
The way they showed that was freaking awesome.
It was like somewhere in between the slow-mo Michael Bay Transformer shots and the Matrix shots, you know, and so it's like they fused the best parts about those two things to really create something very cool about his Spidey sense. And so, which is how that read to me, because you can't do Spidey sense like they did back in the cartoons,
the
squiggly lines, and then the webbing behind him, and the screen flashes red and blue around his head. You just can't do that for live action movie. So that's the way it read to me, was Spidey sense, and it really was. It was very cool.
And his whole battle. I mean, all the fighting stuff was great.
The fight sequences were great.
I mean, you know, I don't think anybody was worried about that. You know.
Yeah, they were very well choreographed, very well shot. There were definitely pieces and parts in there that were good. You know. The one scene where Gwen goes to do her interview and they're in London.
Yeah.
He's like, that scene was way too long, and he seemed on acid.
It was all that stuff was weird. Because I think
But I still really enjoy the chemistry that was there between Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone. I love Emma Stone.
We all know they have great chemistry, because the chemistry was there in the first movie, and now they're a couple in real life. Right. So I'm sure that helps.
Oh yeah.
But somebody sat down and made a decision and said, let's just fucking shove more of it in there.
Yeah.
Like too much of it.
Right.
You know, we get it. And this is what I was alluding to earlier, is that I'm sure they felt like they really needed to hammer home this love between them, so that when Gwen dies, we have that emotional impact that we're supposed to get from it. And I still got it, but I feel like I would have gotten it even if they had cut half of that Notebook stuff out.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You know,
I'm going to thank Charles Pierce for that reference right there.
Yeah. So. You know, just a few more things on the positives. All the acting was great.
Yeah.
The visuals were, of course, were great. I can't say the music was great. I can say the music was weird. I mean, they made some very bold and interesting choices with the music.
Yeah.
But all the special effects look awesome. Goblin, I don't know, man.
It was an interesting route that they took his story. Yeah. And it was an interesting look that they gave the character. Wasn't bad.
Like,
wasn't anything to write home about.
Yeah, I'm just like, why did they have to even put him in there? It's just, I mean, did you not learn anything from Spider-Man 3 when you had too many villains in the... No. You know, like, it wasn't necessary. But especially because they both introduced Harry and made him into the Green Goblin in, like, a span of, like, 45 minutes or something. And it's just too quickly for me.
Agreed.
Too quickly. Okay. All right. Well, I think that's enough.
I think that's better. Yeah, okay. That's about it.
All right. That was our review of Amazing Spider-Man 2. Please do not be deterred from going see it. By some chance, some people don't care about spoilers and they just listen to stuff whether they've seen the movie or not, and you may still want to go see it or something, even if you hadn't already seen it. Still go see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? I mean, it's a blockbuster spectacle, and you deserve to be able to watch Spider-Man kick ass on a big screen. You know, it just wasn't the best outing in my opinion. Still not. I don't know. I was about to say I prefer it over Spider-Man 3, but I'm not even sure right now. Like I'm gonna have to think about that one a little bit more. But anyway. Please send us an email at geeklydose@gmail.com if you have any questions, theories, comments, hate mail, etc. We take it all. Feel free to tweet us at AwesomePods on Twitter. Please, this is very important too, especially the way we're doing things now with the live updates and all that. If you head over to facebook.com/AwesomePods, you know, you can get these updates, you know, and you'll know exactly when we're going to record, so you can be ready to tune in and stream and all that. You can also go to awesomepods.com. We have a website too. Am I leaving anything out? No. YouTube.com/awesomepods to see a video of this episode.
And get some extra bonus.
That is
trailer
correct.
Overdose right before.
That's right. There is the Transformers Age of Extinction bonus trailer overdose at the beginning of that. Okay, please look me up also. I have all kinds of stuff that I'm trying to get into these days. Facebook.com/TimBridgewater1, Facebook.com/TimBridgewater2. You can follow me on Twitter at TimBridgewater1. I think that's about it. Oh, YouTube.com/TimDog326. I make silly shit on there and I put it up and I like to see what happens. Music covers, fake movie trailers, I've been doing a lot of stuff lately, so head over there if you want to see any of that stuff.
And I'm not quite as easily as accessible, but you can catch me on Twitter. Oh Lord, Twitter.
The knockoff Twitter.
Right. Oriona, Oriona 75. Also, I've been playing a lot of Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls. If you'd like to hop in a game, you're more than welcome. Oriona, Orina, pound 1318. So if you want to come hop on BattleNet, battle tag me, just let me know, when you send me a message, you say, hey, I'm Geekly Dose listener. Be happy. I also play World of Warcraft, and so if you want to play, let's play.
Yes. And now is your time to get your emails in for the next episode with any suggestions, comments, anything like I said before. And normally here we would kind of talk about, once again, the format has kind of changed. We don't really know what we're going to talk about. What we did for this episode is I told Caitlin, I said, let's just wait and see what happens in the world of geek news, and then that'll tell us what to talk about for the next episode. And Spider-Man just happened to come out during that time, so I feel like it's pretty safe to assume that the next episode is probably going to come out after Days of Future Past, because we got that coming out in a couple weeks, so we might as well wait for that. That way we can talk about that and review it along with whatever news happens between now and then. Of course, if we get a bunch of emails by some chance, we might come in here and just record an email podcast where we answer your questions. Anything's possible here. We just need the feedback. Okay, so make sure you go and check us out. We're on iTunes. We're also on Stitcher.com. Give us good ratings, all those important things, because we need that to remain motivated and keep it up. And hopefully we can have a lot more material for you guys. So I believe that is all. Does anyone have anything else to say on this episode?
Nope.
No? Okay.
Jesse, you've been so quiet for so long.
I know.
Okay, well, until next time, for Geekly Dose, I'm Tim Bridgewater.
Caitlin Franks.
Jesse Sedgley.
Thank you, guys, and see you next time for your next dose. Bye, YouTube.
Bye. Thanks for watching.